Chapter 541. Shinra, Jin Dun. 5 generations of Hokage, what do you want to do? Pain Heavenly Path looked at Gong Yi and said quietly. The shock just now was gone, replaced by apathy. The rest of the Akatsuki members, they are still the same. Although in his eyes, he still couldn't believe Gong Yi's sudden arrival. A gaffe on his face just now was suppressed. Although the man in front of them was Gong Yi, they still didn't show too much panic. Everyone is not an ordinary ninja. Since they can defect from the village for their own ideas, they naturally also have their own dignity. Long time no see, everyone. Gong Yi's face. With a smile, Rong glanced at the people on the fingers of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, in front of him. After his eyes swept to the black shadow belonging to Ah Fei, he paused for a while. Of his raised mouth seemed to show a hint of sarcasm. Just thinking about it, he has already guessed. I guess he solved Kisame Hoshigaki by himself, so that the mask Obito joined Akatsuki in advance. And that represents Kisame Hoshigaki's ring, which he has now taken. Then it should already be a group with Uchiha Itachi. Well, was it completely monitored? Combined with the dwindling information from Itachi recently, Gong Yi can think of it completely. Seems Akatsuki, now they don't fully trust Itachi. After all, his mind is too close, and he is still from Konoha village. With the mask Obito and Nagato's cautiousness, he probably wouldn't trust him to act alone. This pointless topic, let's not continue. Pain Heavenly Path slowly put down his hand and lifted the spell. His expression was a little indifferent at the moment. Nagato can clearly know that Gong Yi's sudden appearance will definitely not bring anything good. I think so too, after all my time is precious. Gong Yi's face. Rong's smile did not diminish, and a pair of eyes looked at Pain's Rinnegan without any fear. The two simply looked at each other, but Gong Yi didn't feel any discomfort. On the contrary, when Pain looked at him again, his back was cold. Even with Nagato behind him, he couldn't help but feel his heart move. As if Gong Yi's glance, through Rinnegan, was passed directly to him. How could he find me? Probably overthinking it. Nagato suppressed some unrealistic thoughts in his heart, and he shook his head and muttered to himself, in this situation, it is impossible for him to know these things. It seemed that after comforting himself, he put it back on Pain's body. You stop me. Regained his senses, Nagato clearly saw that Kazuya wanted to try to touch Gaara's body. Now that the magic dragon has reached the end of the 9 seals, he naturally does not allow Gong Yi to destroy it. Flash, when he came to Gong Yi's eyes, he immediately raised his arm and shouted, Shinra Tensei Almighty Push sign. Om. The whole action was completed in one go, almost in the blink of an eye, a violent repulsion immediately appear. Everything around him seemed to be pushed outside by an invisible big hand. The entire circular area centered on the Pain Heavenly Path will be emptied. Countless rubble flew across, and the ground standing under Pain's feet even shattered into a deep pit. But now his power is strong, but it has not shaken Gong Yi. I saw that he didn't seem to be affected by it, and the whole person was still standing there safe and sound. On the handsome face, there is still this indifferent smile. Pain Heavenly Path destroyed everything around it, but it couldn't shake Gong Yi at all. Kang. At this moment, before it was too late to be shocked, I saw a golden light suddenly appear above. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the brilliance like a small sun in horror, feeling their hearts tremble. At this moment, what was originally a very dark cave, has been reflected like daytime, even making people unable to open their eyes. How is it possible? Pain, who had been expressionless all the time, finally showed a touch of emotion. Although I am not the body here, I can only exert a little power. Even this ninjutsu, he used a special method to release this shadow. But despite this, it is impossible for normal people to be immune to my own Shinra Tensei Almighty Push sign. Pain could clearly see just now that the current Gong Yi didn't even move a step, so he completely resisted his rejection. For him, it was unbelievable. Jin Dunjian / Completely ignoring everyone, Gong Yi raised his arm and pointed forward. That location is the center between Gedo Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, and Gara. The blue power spit out from the golem's mouth, the channel it forged is linking with it, and it constantly greedily sucks the Shukaku tail in Gara's body. It has enough Shukaku chakras even though it still has a few eyes open. Gong Yi wants to do now is immediately cut off the connection between the two. That's right, this is Gong Yi's previous plan. It can not only allow Akatsuki to collect the tailed beasts, but also prevent Gara from throwing the tailed beasts and dying. The idea now was originally thought by Gong Yi at Namikaze Minato. He decided to do this based on his conjecture about the Jinchuriki column force of the small 10 tails people. Gedo Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, after sucking the chakra of a certain tailed beast, it is actually enough. This is like in the original book, after it absorbed Kyubi, 9 tails chakra at the end. Now that I have waited for so long, the Shukaku chakra in Gara's body has almost been mastered by it. Then immediately forcibly interrupt it. In this case, Gara's body can still retain half of Shukaku's power, so that he will not die like this. Well, apart from holding on to the state of giving it a try, he can't think of any other way. However, according to Gong Yi's inference, the chance of success in doing so should be very high. Of course, no matter what, you still have to give it a try. Boom! Light up the whole cave with a bright golden glow, when it is at once. After collapsing, they began to intertwine with each other to form a huge golden long sword. It is full of light, like a magic weapon. Next second, accompanied by a sharp sound of breaking through the air. As if it had spirituality, it automatically swung down in the direction Gong Yi pointed. Chapter 542. Punishment from God, 5th more. Pain Heavenly Path's expression changed dramatically, and he wanted to try to stop the golden sword from falling. Although he is just a black shadow that seems to disappear at any time, he can feel it through his tone. Now his face is definitely a very wonderful face. His own magical dragon 9 seal ceremony was disturbed, although Nagato was indifferent, but he was also a little embarrassed and angry. Not only him, but Afe, who is standing on the fingers of Gedo Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, at the moment, his face behind the mask is full of coldness. He, who seemed a little funny just now, has completely disappeared. Uchiha Itachi, who was standing next to him, could even clearly feel that for a moment, his whole aura suddenly changed. Although he disappeared for only half a second, Uchiha Itachi knew. He shouldn't have sensed anything wrong. This newcomer partner beside him doesn't seem to be as weak as he has shown. At the same time, when Gong Yi's golden escape great sword fell, Pain Heavenly Path raised his hand and once again vented the power of chakra. A terrifying repulsion burst out from his body again. Through a special method again, Pain Heavenly Path unleashes the power of Shinra Tensei, Almighty Push, sign again. It is very difficult for such an illusory body to be able to release ninjutsu. The rest of the people, they can only stand there like this, quietly maintaining the power of the magic dragon 9 seals. There is no way for anyone who is not the ontology, here. Even Pain, he is the same. None of them thought that anyone would come here now. Moreover, they did not expect that the 5th generation Hokage Gong Yi, who had been staying in Konoha village, would actually appear here in person. The relationship between Sunagakure village and Konoha village is very bad, but they never imagined that Gong Yi would choose to come here to save Gara. Nagato himself at the moment, he has already thought about everything, except that he did not expect Gong Yi, he would suddenly shoot. The power burst out, and now it is completely aimed at Gong Yi's gold escape greatsword. Kang! With a loud bang, the two sparked endless sparks. The current golden escape giant sword, it stopped silently in midair, as if it was chopped on some invisible object. Pain Heavenly Path, whose expression could not be clearly seen, the shadow that belonged to him raised his hand and looked up at the sky. Obviously, the two are fighting each other. This is just what the Akatsuki group thinks of themselves. Because in the next second, Pain Heavenly Path will no longer be able to continue to maintain the strength of the expedition, and the golden escape sword has already begun to fall. Now even Pain's body, here, he can't stop Gong Yi's golden escape. So let alone say it's just a mere illusory body. In almost less than a second, the Jinden Great Sword continued to slash downwards. Pain's so-called repulsive force doesn't seem to affect it at all. With the fall of the golden sword, Gong Yi threw a special kunai towards Gaara's position. When a rumbling sound came out, Gong Yi activated the technique of Hiraishin. A majestic smoke and dust swept out, and Gong Yi brought Gaara to another place. Just after Gong Yi had just settled down, an earth-shattering roar came. It was Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, here. After it absorbed chakra and was interrupted by Gong Yi, the entire huge mouth began to slow down at this time. Closure. The eyes that had just opened were also slowly closed. After a while, it has lost its vitality, as if it were a dead thing before. A bang appeared. Pain Heavenly Path immediately. Hand seal, removes Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. His response was quick, and since the matter had come to this point, he certainly wouldn't keep the golem here. But fortunately so far, Gong Yi doesn't seem to know about them and has no interest at all. His appearance is simply to help Sunagakure village and save Gaara. As for the Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, behind him, after taking a look, he didn't care at all. For this secret, he still has confidence that Gong Yi will know. Was clear to him that Gong Yi was pretending, just to lower their vigilance. At the same time, although Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, is unknown to most people, Gong Yi is very clear. All his thoughts are just wishful thinking of Pain. Soon, after Pain took back Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, all Akatsuki members put their hands down and slowly disappeared. They naturally know that the plan has been disrupted, and staying here will add unnecessary risks. Gong Yi. When the last figure that belonged to Ah Fei disappeared, the murderous intent in his alone exposed eyes was awe-inspiring. But although there was some resentment, he did not stop, but immediately open. In his current state, there is really no way to hold Gong Yi. And he can't take action yet, because he can't estimate how powerful Gong Yi's strength is. If there is a mistake, then it will obviously make himself, Uchiha Madara. Identity was thus revealed. After all, the mask Obito, he was using this identity to control Nagato and the others. If such an identity is lost and let them know their true identity, then it is very likely that the next plan will be completely aborted. You choose to take action today for your own benefit, and one day you will regret it. Pain Heavenly Path slowly regained his composure. His illusory black figure stood there quietly, and slowly said to Gong Yi. All things have happened. Pain has been able to control his emotions very well. It's not like an ordinary person. He just jumped like thunder and wanted to kill Gong Yi. Contrary, now he was calm and terrifying, and continued, all the pain has awakened me. A stupid human like you will not understand this. Since you have chosen to be involved in this Uzumaki, then take it silently with you. God will give you the punishment. Oh, God. Hearing Pain's long speech, Gong Yi didn't. With a contemptuous smile. I've met too many people like you who think you're a god, but it's a pity. Gong Yi said, paused and smiled, with a look of indifference on his face. They all died under my hands too. But these guys, at least they dare to show their real faces. And you are just a person who only dares to hide behind a corpse. I feel that you should call yourself a clown rather than God. Chapter 543. Change the world. Hiding behind a dead body. Hearing Gong Yi finish speaking, Nagato's heart sank. This is the shadow of the Pain Heavenly Path, although it doesn't show any great shock. Manipulating his Nagato from the rear is a bit unbelievable. Believe. He has never imagined that the 5 generations of Hokage standing in front of him would actually know so much, what he already knows. After a brief silence, Nagato muttered to himself. Now with Gong Yi's words, Nagato's mind has gone blank. He already thought that he was well hidden, and it was impossible for anyone to find out. Is he expressing another meaning? Thinking of this, Nagato forcibly suppressed the horror in his heart. Although this comforted himself, he was beginning to feel uneasy. He, not afraid of Gong Yi, claimed to be God Nagato. He himself had enough confidence to defeat Gong Yi. However, Nagato didn't like everything about him. It was as if he had been taken over by the master. The clown. Soon, when he came back to his senses, Pain sneered, "Then Hokage, let's wait and see." The voice fell, and Pain didn't wait. Gong Yi spoke again, and the dark shadow of his whole body disappeared in an instant. Wait and see. Looking at the position where Pain left, Gong Yi's mouth showed a faint smile. Hee, then let's wait and see. A look of contempt, a fearless aura emerges. Now Gong Yi, he doesn't care at all. Although he seemed to threaten himself, Gong Yi knew that his heart was already a little flustered. Although it didn't show it, Gong Yi could clearly feel it. At least for now, it seems that he will not dare to touch himself here at all. Although today, he has ruined their plans. But Nagato and Obito, it is impossible for them to choose to go to great lengths to fight against them. It is because Gong Yi clearly controls the whole situation that he is so unscrupulous to save Gaara to complete his plan. As for Nagato's so-called secret, Gong Yi already thought it was just a joke. Completely used by Obito, but he didn't know it at all. Instead, he felt like a god who was planning to change the world. Gong Yi could only sneer at such a thing, and his face was full of ridicule. Boom! Outside the cave, a loud explosion sounded. Oh, it's not over yet. Hearing the voice, Gong Yi slowly turned his head and muttered to himself. The terrifying sense of consciousness is still spreading around. Gong Yi can clearly know that the war outside is not over yet. However, the number of people was changed, and from Hyuganeji's solo battle against Sasori of the Red Sand just now, it was now joined by people. Well, obviously the current Sasori of the Red Sand, with his puppets, is really difficult to deal with. Even the current Neji's strength is indeed very strong, and there are very few people who can compare in terms of physical skills. Unfortunately, the Sasori of the Red Sand he is facing now is a ninja who is a remote control puppet. And he also has a lot of weird secret techniques, so Hyuga Neji has been severely restrained. Sometimes, although the ability is good, if once the ability that is good at is restrained and cannot be used, it will be difficult to quickly change oneself to defeat the enemy. Just like the current Neji, he is used to using his super physical skills to cooperate with Byakugan to kill the enemy. Now suddenly facing an enemy like Sasori of the Red Sand, he can't get close, and he also needs to adjust again. Because according to his strengths, there is absolutely no chance of killing Sasori of the Red Sand. Especially those puppets he masters, each of them is very powerful, and will not be easily destroyed by him. Bastard, you die for me. In the middle of the battlefield, Sakura dodged to the side of Sasori of the Red Sand. She was biting on Kiba at the moment, raising her fist and bombarding Sasori of the Red Sand. Even though she didn't take Tsunade as her teacher, her own magical powers were still being developed unconsciously. Was a loud bang, and there was a small deep pit where Sasori of the Red Sand stood just now. But unfortunately, her power is strong, but she can't threaten Sasori of the Red Sand at all. Almost instantly, he had dodged Sakura's blow. Gluck! The chakra line with the 3-generation Cage puppet in his hand moved, and it floated in the air immediately. Changed his target and headed towards Sakura. Sakura. At this time, seeing Sasori of the Red Sand targeting Sakura, Naruto immediately. Angrily drinking. Rasengan. Stepping forward, blue energy balls began to condense in Naruto's palm. That's Hokage's Rasengan. When Kakashi saw that Naruto had released this ninja surgery, his face couldn't help but be stunned. As for Gong Yi's ninjutsu, Kakashi has been with Gong Yi since he was a child, a long person, naturally very clear. He won't admit it wrong. He has carefully studied this ninjutsu, which condenses and rotates at high speed in a small area, thereby creating a huge tearing force to destroy the enemy's defense. His later Chidori also borrowed this technique. Some principles. But Kakashi didn't expect that now Gong Yi would give Naruto his original ninjutsu. 8 trigrams break the mountain. Just when Kakashi lost his mind, Hyuga Neji also bit Kiba and released ninjutsu. He knew now that while Naruto and Sakura were distracting Sasori of the red sand, it was the perfect time to strike. Almost half a second of effort, both of them responded quickly. The puppet of the 3 generations of Kazekage had just reached Sakura's eyes. Naruto had already rushed over. And Hyuga Neji, he circled behind Sasori of the red sand, ready to give him a fatal blow. Sand Iron Magnetic Shield. Sasori of the red sand's complexion has not changed at all, seeing that there has been a trend of 2 sides and flanking attacks. The 3 generations of Kazekage in your hand, immediately. Abandoning the goal of Sakura, instead, he released a piece of sand and iron around him. At this moment, a piece of sand and iron seemed to protect the Sasori of the red sand like a huge high wall. The next second, there was only a loud bang, which completely blocked Neji's attack. There is still one whole card that has not been used. I am afraid that they will waste a lot of time if they continue like this. Gong Yi, who had already walked out of the cave, looked at the battlefield ahead, shook his head and muttered to himself. In this situation, it seems that Sasori of the red sand has been gradually suppressed. In fact, he still has a whole card that he has not used. If it continues like this, it is really uncertain who the real winner will be in the end. Forget it, let's end it now. Gong Yi shook his head, and he had a lot of things to do, so he didn't have the heart to wait here. There needs to be a proper push to move things forward. Thinking of this, he flashed away from here in an instant. When he reappears, he has officially entered the battlefield. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read and collect, and push the latest chapter. Baidu search 99 playmates to find 99 novels and LT. Chapter 544. Sasori, hundreds of machines. Neji, it's a little too slow. Just when I saw my attack, I was blocked again by Sasori of the red sand. Neji was about to speak when a voice interrupted him. When Neji found out, he saw a man suddenly appear in front of his eyes. He seemed to be silent, and he came here without the slightest sign. His Byakugan couldn't even find it, and his brain couldn't react. There is no doubt that the dual senses are about to fail. Who can have such terrifying abilities? I'm afraid that in the entire human ninja world, only one person can do it. Mr. Gong Yi. Her face, Hyuga Neji, who thought of this, blurted out. When he looked closely, he saw a tall and straight black-haired man in a white robe in front of him. Gong Yi, his most respected teacher. Lord Hokage. Uncle Gong Yi. Meanwhile, the other side. When Kakashi, Naruto and others saw this man, they all said in unison. Everyone looked stunned for a moment, and their eyes were a bit unbelievable. Believe. They never imagined that the current Gong Yi would actually come here in person. Since he became the 5th Hokage, Gong Yi would not have left in Konoha village if there was no major event. So, because of this, they are all surprised to see Gong Yi's appearance now. 5 generations of Hokage. This time, when Gong Yi appeared, even Sasori of the red sand quickly retreated, pulling a very long distance from it. The puppet of the 3 generations of Kazekage is directly in front of him. Obviously now he is very afraid of Gong Yi. Hee, Sasori. Not responding to the others, Gong Yi instead looked at Sasori with a wary face. At this moment, a faint smile appeared on his face. But it was such a smile, and Sasori of the Red Sand's eyes were full of coldness. "It's been a long time, I didn't expect you to suddenly appear here," Sasori of the Red Sand said coldly, with a cold glow in his eyes, obviously waiting for a shot at any time. "It's been a long time indeed." Gong Yi nodded. He looked at Sasori of the Red Sand's handsome face and said slowly, "I remember the last time the two met. He was just a child forced to participate in the Second Ninja World War. Now that the time is short and things are different, I have already mastered the Hokage who controls the giant Konoha village. I have to say that sometimes I look back with a sigh of relief. It's a pity." After regaining his senses, Gong Yi looked at Sasori of the Red Sand and continued, "This may also be the last time we meet." "Is it? Then let's see if it's the last time you see me." "It's the last time I see you." Hearing this, Sasori of the Red Sand also showed a crazy smile on his face. Now he is not afraid of Gong Yi, on the contrary he has high fighting spirit. As soon as the voice fell, he saw that he threw the last scroll behind him with his backhand. At the same time, tear open the position of the heart, and what is clearly visible inside is a mechanism. Red secret skills are performed. Sasori of the Red Sand does not have any hesitation. When he already knew that a fight with Gong Yi was inevitable, he used his strongest ninjutsu. It is also the biggest trump card he has been hiding all the time. This is the strongest puppet technique that shocked the ninja world. Bang, 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 bang. The muffled sound appeared continuously. When the sound completely disappeared, immediately everyone can see clearly. The sky above Sasori of the Red Sand was filled with white smoke, making it impossible to see exactly what was inside. But in the blink of an eye, when the white smoke gradually dispersed, Kakashi, Hyuga Neji and others were completely dumbfounded. Although the smile on Gong Yi's face did not diminish, it seemed that they were not affected by it at all. When you see this scene, give it immediately. Shocked. I saw a dense number of puppets appearing above the sky. Every puppet is wearing a yuhi-colored robe, and the power that is exuding from the whole body is also very powerful. Although some do not want to believe it, they can clearly perceive that the hundreds of puppets floating in the sky are all controlled by countless chakra lines. And at the heart of all of them is the heart that Sasori of the Red Sand has opened. Haha, the 100 Machines performance is indeed shocking enough. Gong Yi quietly raised his head and looked at the puppet that seemed to occupy half of the sky. He couldn't help but praise. Although he now knows about Sasori of the Red Sand's secret art, but seeing it for the first time, I have to say, it's pretty spectacular. One person can control so many puppets, and it does make everyone feel suspicious of life. Of course, Gong Yi is nothing but admiration. He is far from the faces of Kakashi and the others, because he still knows a lot about these 100 maneuvers. These hundreds of Yuhi robe puppets use different weapons, and the functions of each are also very different. Although it seems difficult to control, for Sasori, who has become a puppet, it is actually very simple. Of these puppets are actually all at the heart of the Sasori of the Red Sand. Regenerating nucleus, controlled by the emitted chakra, and the regeneration core in Sasori. With its links, these hundreds of puppets, Sasori of the Red Sand can't be manipulated with fingers at all. It is because of this that Sasori of the Red Sand only needs to use his will to control, then his puppet will respond. So there are hundreds of puppets, and they are not bad at the time of action. 4. These puppets are combined with Sasori's control, their battles should be extremely strong. After all, Gong Yi knows that Sasori's puppet ninjutsu alone is enough to destroy a country. Normally, a puppet master is measured by the number of puppets he can control, and the number of fingers is only 10 fingers. Although this is already the limit, but the puppet technique can really subvert the traditional. Like the current Sasori, he can actually control hundreds of puppets at once. Although he is his own enemy, it has to be said that Gong Yi's praise for his words is worthwhile. After all, Sasori of the Red Sand has reached its peak in puppet technique. But unfortunately, such a crazy genius. Today Gong Yi has decided to immediately get rid of him. Die. Gluck cluck. The sound of the puppet joints rattled. Gong Yi turned around and looked. I saw the Yuhi robe puppets densely packed in the sky, already attacking him frantically. Baidu search 99 Playmate find 99 Novel net. Chapter 545. Big Ball Rasengan. Sasori of the Red Sand showed a frenzied face and started a preemptive attack, attacking Gong Yi directly. Of puppets is not afraid at all. The man who can suppress the ninja world. Standing in the back, Sasori of the Red Sand's handsome face sneered, then come and try my most perfect puppet technique. After using the 100 machine drills, his whole person has already revealed another powerful and confident feeling. No one could resist his secret technique, and he never thought of anyone who could survive in his own wave of puppets. People who have really seen their own ninjutsu, they have already become their most satisfying works. Today, I want to harvest a more perfect work. Sasori of the Red Sand licked his lips and smiled, and said slowly, and that work is Yu Gong Yi. Clap Lala. When the words were over, there were many Yuhi robe puppets, and they began to show all kinds of attacks. The variety was dazzling. Some of their arms turned into long knives, while others were turned into a long sword. And the mouth suddenly opened, lacing out countless poisonous needles. There was also a steel tail suddenly sticking out from behind, sweeping towards Gong Yi. Almost in an instant, almost all possible weapons in the ninja continent were used by them. Lord Hokage. Everyone in Kakashi, after seeing the scene in front of them, everyone's heart was split. Have imagined that Sasori of the Red Sand would still hide such a trump card that was enough to destroy the entire army. Even Neji, who had just been confident that he could kill Sasori of the Red Sand, couldn't help but sink in his heart. Looking at this almost seamless attack, he didn't know how long he could last if it was replaced by himself. Not bad. Feeling the fierce attack of the violent storm in front of him, Gong Yi stood there quietly, still not smiling. It seems that such an attack can't make him show a moving look. There is indeed enough potential to destroy a country. Gong Yi said lightly to himself, and seemed to be saying to Sasori, unfortunately, just like this. It's hard to kill me. Jin Dun Zan Huang Big Palm. Feeling that the attack was only 100 meters away, Gong Yi made a seal with one hand. Om, a chakra meaning soaring to the sky, suddenly burst out wildly. Almost instantly, the surrounding area of the entire water surface began to boil. A huge palm that covered the sky, it slowly appeared behind Gong Yi. I saw that its whole body was gilded, and its palm patterns were clearly visible, which made people feel very shocking. When it appeared, all the people standing below only felt a black head falling forward. With terrifying pressure, it has already slapped towards the densely packed puppets in front. Boom, boom. With a loud bang, the countless attacks that were hard to resist completely collapsed. In front of the water where Sasori of the Red Sand was standing, waves of dozens of meters were stirred up. The entire area began to collapse inch by inch, and even the cliffs above were immediately smoothed out and ceased to exist. Not only that, but the hundreds of puppets that Sasori of the Red Sand was proud of were completely destroyed. For everything in front of me, there seems to be no way at all. They collapsed at the touch of Gong Yi's power, and they had no resistance at all. Especially in the face of the Xuanwang Big Palm blessed with the power of Jin Dun, Sasori of the Red Sand's puppets are like destroying the dead, and they are vulnerable. Soon, after the big black palm disappeared, countless pieces of gravel and weapons, mukuro, abounded. And those Yuhi robe puppets, they are all left with only stump fragments, so that people can roughly see their original appearance. How is it possible? Sasori of the Red Sand's complexion changed greatly, and he was completely unable to believe it when he stepped back. Looking at the ruins in front of him, his puppet was completely destroyed by more than half. This is just the first fight, and he has fallen into a disadvantage. Naruto, look good. Just when everyone was still stunned, Gong Yi, who was standing there motionless, looked at Naruto not far from him. When one day your Rasengan is in full control, it will be enough to harness such power. A live demonstration for him, Gong Yi raised his palm. With a buzz, the terrifying blue chakra burst out suddenly. Everyone's eyes widened, and they could clearly see that this blue chakra energy ball actually grew rapidly and became bigger. Raising his arm slowly, he saw the Rasengan on Gong Yi's palm, which has become the size of a meteorite. This, so strong. Naruto is completely stupid here. Kakashi, who thought he knew Rasengan well, opened his mouth in disbelief. Front of Gong Yi, he seems like a small ant holding a big tire of a car. Such a picture that is extremely contrary to common sense makes everyone a little inconsistent. You bloody bastard. Sasori of the Red Sand already felt a great shame when he watched Gong Yi demonstrate ninjutsu for the juniors in his village. The current self is actually just to let him train genin in actual combat. Thinking of this, Sasori of the Red Sand controlled the few Yuhi robe puppets and launched a new round of attacks. Big Ball Rasengan. Step forward, Gong Yi doesn't. Retreat, push forward with the huge Rasengan in his hand. Next second. When the two touched each other, Sasori of the Red Sand could only see the puppets in front of him melt instantly. They didn't even leave the shards of Mukuro, they were completely destroyed by this high-intensity force and became a flying puppet. Ash! It was such a fatal blow, Gong Yi didn't stop at all. He wanted to completely wipe out Sasori of the Red Sand's secret skill, Yuhi robe puppet. Whoa, whoa! Sasori of the Red Sand wanted to pull back the last Yuhi robe puppet, but Gong Yi didn't give him the chance at all. Was just a face-to-face, his last puppets were completely disconnected from him, and the blue chakra lines broke apart instantly. And the last Yuhi robe puppets, under the power of Big Ball Rasengan, were annihilated into ashes as always. This is shocking enough, and the super-secret technique that can destroy a country was completely disintegrated by Gong Yi. How is it possible? Sasori of the Red Sand stood at the back, just staring blankly at everything. He thought of countless possibilities, but only did not think of such a picture. His strongest hole card, in front of Gong Yi's eyes, was so vulnerable. In just a few dozen seconds, he only used 2 ninjutsu techniques, and his dreadful performance of 100 tricks completely disappeared. At this moment, Sasori of the Red Sand somewhat understood. Isn't his thinking a little ridiculous? Philo reminds you, 3 things to read and collect. Push the latest chapter. Baidu search 99 playmates, find 99 novels. Chapter 546. This is Gong Yi. You is your real power. When Gong Yi was in front of him, Sasori of the Red Sand looked at him and said quietly. And bewitching face seems to have seen through everything. The horrified and unbelievable look from before has long since disappeared. Instead, it's a very bland one. True power. Hearing Sasori of the Red Sand finish speaking, Gong Yi doesn't. You showed a smile, Sasori, you seem to have misunderstood my true power. Hee, I have to say that your strength is very strong. Hearing this, Sasori of the Red Sand didn't understand Gong Yi's meaning. On the contrary, he said more with relief. But with great power, it's just a fleeting glimpse in the prosperous era, it's far from impossible. Long. The only thing that can really last is the art of puppets. It is truly timeless beauty and at the same time the most powerful thing that can be passed on into the future. Sasori of the Red Sand burst out laughing, as if mocking Gong Yi. He continued to pursue strength, and the final result could only be turned into a pool of loess. He feels that the real winner is himself. Only a puppet like him that can exist forever may be the most perfect art. Eternity. Gong Yi stepped towards Sasori of the Red Sand, a golden light burst out from his hands. That's just what you weaklings are after. Saying that, after the golden light in Gong Yi's hand dissipated, a golden long sword was already in his hand. Now for me, everything that stands in my way, I will be able to destroy with my own hands. Pointing the golden sword in his hand to the heart of Sasori of the Red Sand, Gong Yi's face wrong showed sarcasm. It doesn't matter how old it is. I'm not afraid either. PFF'd. The golden sword instantly pierces the regeneration core of Sasori of the Red Sand. It was the only body he had left, and his weakest heart. When Gongyi completely destroyed it, Sasori of the Red Sand also lost the ability to regenerate. Originally this, regenerated nucleus. If it is not damaged, even if Sasori of the Red Sand's body is completely destroyed by himself, he only needs to regenerate the regeneration core. Inject it into the rest of the puppets, then he can still be resurrected. This is equivalent to the ability to change the body at will to the rest of the puppets, which is equivalent to Sasori of the Red Sand having an immortal body. So, for Gongyi, who has mastered everything, since he knows this, it is naturally impossible to let him go. Haha, have nothing to fear. Feeling that his consciousness was slowly blurring, Sasori of the Red Sand knew that he was going to die. His pair of eyes looked at Gongyi quietly at the moment, holding his last breath, he continued to say slowly, "You are wrong, there is no eternal thing in the world." Fell. Sasori of the Red Sand immediately turned his head and shrugged his hands. A generation of amazing puppet geniuses have already fallen, and their souls have returned to the Pure Land. Doesn't exist. Gongyi slowly pulled out the golden long sword in his hand. Looking at the Sasori of the Red Sand who had fallen to the ground, Gongyi shook his head. You guys, who don't know the essence at all, are just frogs in the bottom of the well. That's it. Whoa, the golden sword in my hand collapsed. Gongyi turned his head. Looking at the Hyuga Neji crowd, he smiled slowly. Okay, bring out the Gaara in the cave, let's go back first. Ah, yes. Hearing Gongyi finish speaking, Naruto immediately regained his senses and nodded. He is still immersed in the picture of Gongyi Big Ball Rasengan just now, unable to extricate himself. And Hyuga Neji, Kakashi and others, they are also aware of the power of Gongyi again. From the time the two fought to the present, it only took tens of seconds. Seems to be very long, but in fact everything happened in a flash of lightning, and the battle ended extremely quickly. In their heads couldn't keep up with Gongyi's shot, and everything ended in dust. So heavy. Soon, Naruto carried Gaara out on his back, and his face couldn't help but groaned. Of course they don't know anything about Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. Of course, Gongyi didn't say it now, but kept it in his heart. For these things, sometimes there are too many explanations, but in fact it does not have much effect. Contrary, it will backfire and have some unnecessary consequences. Send him back to Sunagakure village, and you will be responsible for the subsequent handover, Kakashi. Seeing that everything had settled down, Gongyi looked at Kakashi and explained. I see, Lord Hokage. Kakashi nodded and replied. Okay, then I'll leave here first. Looking at Neji and Ming Sakura III, Gongyi immediately flashed away. Just now on Gaara's side, I healed him in the cave. Everything is as he expected, because there is still a lot of Shukaku's power in his body, so Gaara's life is not affected. In fact, his current situation is the same as that of Naruto and Namikaze Minato. Kyuubi, Nine Tails, in Naruto's body is actually not a complete body. If I remember correctly, he should have the male Kyuubi, Nine Tails, in his body, and Namikaze Minato's in the female Kyuubi, Nine Tails. Although Kyuubi, Nine Tails, is separated, Naruto is still alive and well, and he can use his powerful combat power. In this way, it is because of this inference that Gongyi has the confidence to save Gaara to life. By looking at it like this today, he also bet right. Although I don't know if Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, sucked away the young Shukaku or the Yin Shukaku, anyway. Gaara was rescued, that's his purpose. And, now he doesn't need Gaara to become his own fighting force, he just use him to take advantage of Master Sunagakure village. In other cases, Gongyi doesn't care at all. Anyway, Shukaku is only half in his body, but it's enough for him to survive. Well, even if everything went well, Gong Yi naturally won't stay here. After the instructions, he was ready to return to the Konoha village. Now that there is no deviation from the plan here, it is time for him to move on to the next step. It's not too late for the matter on the Sunagakur village's 5 tails, and I have to get its chakra. Akatsuki here has been stimulated by himself now. Although they won't target themselves for a while, they should speed up the collection of tailed beasts. I can feel that the moment the mask Obito left, he hated himself very much. Gong Yi can clearly understand that in order to prevent his plan from being destroyed, he will definitely be desperate. 547. The strongest pupil technique Rinnegan. Heavy dark clouds covered the sky, and along with the gloomy weather, light rain continued to fall. Amegakure village, a village with constant rainy seasons, everyone seems to be used to it now. Who live here have even forgotten how clear the sky is. Well, because of this special reason, it is built beside a deep sea. Looking around, all the buildings in the entire Amegakure village are surrounded by various pipes. In this way, although it rains all the year round, it will not be submerged. Because of these rainwater, all of them are directly introduced into the sea next to them along the pipeline. The wind whistled constantly. The rain was accompanied by strong winds, which kept hitting the towering buildings. And the turbulent waves are also turning up a piece of spray from time to time. Gong Yi is actually going to shoot. What the hell is going on? Mask Obito, he questioned while standing in front of Pain. In the middle of Amegakure village, on the tallest building. This is also wrapped around the top of the pipe, with a platform. Pain Heavenly Path stood there quietly, not answering Obito's question. The rain was still falling, and for the platform without any shelter, Pain let the rain wet his body. He was a pair of Rinnegans at the moment, quietly looking ahead. Into view are also towering buildings and pipes that can be seen almost everywhere. Pain has long been accustomed to strange buildings for outsiders. Moment of silence, Pain slowly turned around. He looked at the mask Obito and said lightly, "This time it was an accident, nothing happened." Accident. Mask Obito heard Pain Heavenly Path finish. His serious paranoia was obviously not relieved. How could it be an accident? Now we have to hurry up and move the whole plan forward quickly. He didn't notice Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. Pain Heavenly Path thought that he had seen through Gong Yi, and he continued lightly, "This time, he came here mainly to help Sunagakure village to save the next tailed Jinchuriki column force, not to discover ours plan, go straight to sabotage it. I think it must be the Sunagakure village that gave him something he couldn't refuse, so he chose to take the risk and oppose us." On the indifferent expression of Pain Heavenly Path, there was a hint of sarcasm. Just relying on a stupid human being like him, how could he know the true role of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, and how could he know our upcoming plans? I think Pain is right. Konan, who was standing in the dark, walked out slowly. She also didn't have much expression on her face. She just echoed, "We may have been too careful." This time he just wanted to target Gaara in exchange for Sunagakure. The conditions given to him by the village are just right. If he wants to sabotage our plan, I don't think he will catch the second tails of Kumogakure village, and then send it back. Konan looked at the mask Obito and slowly continued, "Since he was able to send the tailed beast away unharmed, he must have not noticed us at all, and then went to collect the tail and give it to Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, to devour. So Mr. Ban, your thinking is a little extreme." Extreme. Hearing the words of Konan and Pain, the mask Obito slowly restrained his emotions. He knew that he had just performed too much. The anxiety in his heart, the mask Obito resumed his usual calmness, and said lightly, "We have been carrying out this plan for a long time, and the current time. It is no longer allowed to make any mistakes. And the 5th generation of Hokage Gong Yi in Konoha village can't let him continue to grow." Seemingly apprehensive, the mask Obito said worriedly, "His existence is likely to seriously threaten us." Mr. Ban, you are still worrying too much. Hearing the mask Obito finished speaking, Pain showed a smile. This is a kind of self-confidence, a kind of contempt for oneself as a god. I'll take care of him myself when things are almost done. It's a real end to everything. After that, a cold glow bloomed in the Rinnegan of Pain Heavenly Path. Get rid of him yourself. Looking at Pain's appearance above everyone, the mask Obito shrugged, then leave it to you. Now the mask Obito, he naturally understands Gong Yi's strength, although he is not really afraid. But in the face of such a guy, he still doesn't want to take a lot of trouble to do it. After all, he has more important things to do, and naturally he doesn't want to entangle with Gong Yi too much. And now, Nagato is almost guided by himself. So invisibly, Gong Yi, an unsightly existence, just needs to be handed over to him. Well, Mr. Ban, you just need to control the whole plan well. Pain Heavenly Path nodded, and it didn't seem to take it seriously at all. Now that he's trying to keep improving Konoha, he's neglecting what's really important, and that might be an opportunity for us as well. Conan seemed to see through something and spoke from the side. He was just a futile waste of time. Mask Obito seemed to understand what Conan was talking about, and a sarcastic smile appeared on the face behind the mask. Well, now Gong Yi is working on developing the Konoha village every day, and has made the mask Obito and Nagato Conan delusional. They all thought that the current Gong Yi, after he became the 5th generation of Hokage, did not increase his own strength, but has been developing Konoha village with all his strength. Under such circumstances, although they once lost to Gong Yi, they are constantly improving themselves. And Gong Yi, he thinks that he is enough to suppress the ninja world, so he is developing his own power in turn. This kind of thing, for them, is indeed the most stupid thing. After so long invisibly, they had long believed that their strength had completely surpassed Gong Yi. Even Nagato, he never felt that Gong Yi could defeat him from the beginning. The owner of the strongest pupil technique Rinnegan, he is completely confident that he can kill him. And now that's the case, there's no need to say more. But when they were still thinking like this, they didn't know that they had been deceived by Gong Yi's appearance. Every day Gong Yi, he seems to be developing Konoha village, constantly handling government affairs. In fact, that was just what his clone did, and his main body was still constantly practicing and improving every day. And once he collects the tailed beasts and becomes a small 10 tails person Jinchuriki, column force, then there will be no one in the entire ninja world who can stop him. Moreover, he also has a group of powerful ninja army. It is not them who are developing everything secretly, but Gong Yi. Philo reminds you. Read the 3 things to collect, push the latest chapter Baidu search 99 playmates looking for 99 novels. Chapter 548. Butterfly Effect. 2 days later. After sending Gaara back to Sunagakure village, Kakashi Squad and the others finally returned to Konoha village. Basically with Gong Yi's help, the rescue of Gaara came to a successful conclusion. Lord Hokage, basically, that's all. Kakashi stood in the office and reported to Gong Yi that he had finished the mission details. Oh, not bad. After listening, Gong Yi nodded with a faint smile on his face. This time it seems that we have no loss at all, and we have obtained so many supplies from Sunagakure village. This is indeed a very good deal. Nara Shikaku stood next to him, and he couldn't help but say. Original Gong Yi happily agreed to the request of Sunagakure village was that in addition to his own plans, Sunagakure village had also agreed to them. Gaara is rescued this time, it will send a lot of materials, although it is a very heavy price for the Sunagakure village, which is already almost impoverished. But for Konoha village, it is another development fund that was obtained in vain. At the same time, Gong Yi's personal action this time has already won the goodwill of many Sunagakure villages. Although this is a beneficial rescue operation, at least Sunagakure village no longer holds the same hatred against Konoha as before. However, there are still some gaps between Sunagakure village and Konoha village. Would be impossible to reconcile the two villages with just this one action. Not to mention Sunagakure village is impossible, even Konoha village is impossible. The current action this time has only eased the relationship between the two villages a lot. Well, that's not what Gongyi cares about. What he cares about is to control Gaara. Naruto's super strong mouth, and the fact that he personally rescued him this time. Invisibly, he has planted a seed in Gaara's heart. With a little irrigation of the future, it will sprout sooner or later. It's still a long time, and Gongyi is naturally not in a hurry about this matter. Anyway, everything is over now. After waiting for Gaara to successfully assume the post of Kazekage for the 5th generation, Gongyi can guide him slowly and subtly. As for really wanting to control every ninja village, then you still need to see how powerful Akatsuki is. The 4th Ninja World War is the key point of his final plan. So, that's why Gongyi wants to start the next battle no matter what. Returning to his senses, Gongyi smiled and said to the two of them, this time it was just a matter of convenience. Of course, Sunagakure village had better remember their promise. Gongyi is not a bad character after all. Now that he has agreed to these, he has also fulfilled the requirements of Sunagakure village. If they really dared to default on their debts, they wouldn't let it go so easily. No problem, I'm about to leave. Kazekage has specially instructed. He said that the supplies will be delivered in the near future. Hearing Gongyi's words, Kaka hurried back to him. Well, the next thing about Sunagakure village will be handed over to Shikaku, sensei. Gongyi nodded, looked at Nara Shikaku and said, I still have 5 tales to do, so I don't have time to pay attention to the supplies in Sunagakure village. But they had already agreed, so Gongyi didn't think much about it. Now in Sunagakure village, they have encountered so many things. Even though the material they promised themselves would never be available again, they would probably force it out. After all, the old guys from Sunagakure village are not stupid. If there is no new generation to grow up, there may be many places that need Konoha village in the future. It is estimated that they also want to use this promise to start to make up for the rift with Konoha village. Sunset dots the evening, and the day's scene is coming to an end. Country of Grass. Gongyi has left the Konoha village at this moment, and walked here. Looking ahead, this small country sandwiched between the land of earth and the land of fire has come into view. Here, Gongyi is not too impressed. To have a ninja village called Grass Hidden Village in the Chunin exam, but it didn't show too much surprise. Suppressing his thoughts, Gongyi dodged into one of the dense jungles. Master. Accompanied by the sound, a ninja from Sunagakure village flashed forward. I saw him wearing Sunagakure Anbu's combat uniform, with a special totem painted on his face. Seeing the visitor, Gongyi was not surprised, but asked lightly, how is it? Now we have a chance. The Sunagakure Anbu ninja, he looked at Gongyi and said slowly, Jinchuriki Column Force, the 5-tailed man, he is now in conflict with Tsuchikage. Because the Jinchuriki column force from Sunagakure village was taken away, Tsuchikage, who had always imprisoned him in the village, has now sent people to follow him. Oh so. When Gongyi heard this, he couldn't help but smile coldly. Sunagakure Anbu member in front of him is naturally the avatar of Gongyi's spiritual consciousness buried in Sunagakure village. Now Akatsuki's actions have made Gongyi a little more urgent. So he put down the rest and prepared to get the chakra of the 5 tails first. Otherwise, Akatsuki's side will grab it first, and Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, will swallow it directly, then it will be bad. What's more, if they are going to blatantly rob people of Jinchuriki column power, they will find that they may already know their plan. This may have some butterfly effect, which will have an unnecessary impact on their future plans. In this way, Gongyi naturally doesn't want to interfere in Akatsuki's affairs by himself. Just a few days ago, Gongyi used the psychic snake to speed up the progress of the divine avatar here. Now, when the matter on Gaara's side is finished, he will use the convenience of his divine avatar to attract the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force. Today, after getting the news of the avatar of divine consciousness, Gongyi knew in his heart that it seemed that he had a high chance of success. Now because of the long-term oppression, the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force is here, and it is obvious that his heart is full of fire. Particular, Onoki is a very stubborn person, and the more he oppresses him, the more he will bounce back. So taking advantage of this situation, Gongyi has figured out a way to draw the force of the five-tailed Jinchuriki column out of Sunagakure village. Originally, Gongyi wanted to use the last time Sunagakure village pretended to be a ninja from Kumogakure village to start the war, and Wu-Wei would naturally be forced to fight by himself. The current plan can't keep up with the changes, and the situation at Akatsuki's place makes him feel that he has no time to prepare. The Fourth Ninja World War may not be far away, and he has no energy to start a war at all. So now I can only attract the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force alone, and then I'm going to capture the chakra. Chapter 549. 5 Generations of Kazekage Gaara. Just follow the previous plan and lead him out of Sunagakure village first. Gongyi thought for a while, then looked at the avatar of consciousness and said, "Since it is no longer possible to start a war at this moment, this is the only way." Of the conflict between him and Onoki, he took advantage of his divine consciousness clone to lead him out, and then directly suppressed and recovered the five-tailed chakra. This is the most direct and effective way Gongyi can think of at present. According to the original book, Akatsuki's capture of the five tails has not been recorded. So Gongyi can't pinpoint Akatsuki. When will they act? It is because of this that he must obtain the five-tailed chakra as soon as possible and efficiently, and must not be preempted by Akatsuki. "I see, Master." When the consciousness clone heard Gongyi finished speaking, he nodded in response. "Well, you can use the psychic snake to contact me in the follow-up." Gongyi's voice fell, and he started the Hiraishin technique and left here. A week later. With Gaara having returned to Sunagakure village, and being secretly pushed by Maki and Ebizo, he has now been recommended for the position of the 5th generation of Kazekage. Although it was a lot late according to the original book, but because of this incident, it became an invisible opportunity for Gaara. After all, Gaara was using her gravel to protect the buildings and civilians of Sunagakure village during the battle against Akatsuki. It is because of this that he was finally arrested because of the depletion of chakra. Well, after the constant publicity of this kind of thing, all the people in Sunagakure village gradually recognized Gaara. At the beginning, he went wild and destroyed many buildings in Sunagakure village, although this kind of thing made people feel bad. Not many people knew about Akatsuki about that incident, and the civilians had already been transferred away at that time. So now that Maki and the others are in control, naturally none of Sunagakure's ninjas objected. Just a few days, Gaara officially took over the position of Maki after getting the approval of the daimyo of the Kingdom of the Wind and became the 5th generation Kazekage of Sunagakure village. In his current identity, he began to call on the rest of the ninja Omura to fight against Akatsuki. As the first victim, he naturally knew of their threat, so Gaara spared no effort to solve the Akatsuki scourge first. The damage caused by Sasori of the Red Sand in Sunagakure village at that time was irreversible. Although Gongyi personally killed him, he was not the only member of G. If Akatsuki is not removed, it will be a dagger hanging in everyone's heart. When it falls, it is fatal damage. But unfortunately, when I started to seek Omura's cooperation widely in the name of Love Shadow, there was no response at all. On the Kumogakure side, now they are so overwhelmed, they can't take care of themselves, completely ignoring the Sunagakure village on the Gaara side. The village of Iwagakure and Onoki, they have always been stable and low-key, and now the development is very strong, second only to the village of Konoha. So, now the Gaara thing is completely regarded as a joke by Onoki, and he completely despised Gaara from the bottom of his heart. After all, a person with Jinchuriki column power, and was captured by Akatsuki before, just such a thing is shameful enough. He couldn't even imagine that Sunagakure village would ask him to take over the position of the 5th generation Kazekage, which was shocking. Especially now that every ninja village has each other's thoughts. They have not been threatened yet, and naturally they will not easily use their power to fight against Akatsuki with Sunagakure village. Akatsuki's information was sent out by Sarutobi Hiruzen as early as the beginning, and it was also secretly fueled by Gongyi. So now every village has an intuitive understanding of them. Although they are not afraid, they do not want to provoke them too much. After all, if they agreed to Gaara's alliance, no doubt, they would be used by Sunagakure village as a sword to kill Akatsuki. The end like this, it is very likely that they will be targeted by Akatsuki in turn. At present, most of the villages in the ninja continent are seeking self-protection and waiting for the rest of the villages to suffer. One will agree to Gaara's plan until he is not really victimized. At least they thought, Akatsuki wouldn't dare to come and trouble them now. So instead of wasting ninja resources, they want to protect their own Jinchuriki column force. Of course, whether in the original book or at this moment, Akatsuki also took advantage of the fact that they were on guard against each other, and at the same time, everyone was self-defense and unwilling to join forces, and now he began to speed up his plan to capture the tailed beast. Because once the ninja villages join forces to fight against them, the 4th ninja war has already kicked off invisibly. They didn't want to go to war so rashly, even though it was Akatsuki, until they got enough tailed beasts. Also, they all have plans and don't want to be disrupted. Now that this is all just the beginning, they will naturally choose to do everything in the dark, instead of putting it on the bright side. Lord Hokage, should we also reject the situation in Sunagakure village? Nara Shikaku stood in Hokage's office, looking at Gongyi who was sitting in front. Hehe, do you want to unite with Ninja Village and come and resist Akatsuki? Putting down the documents from Sunagakure village, Gongyi said slowly, it's a naive idea. It is indeed a bit naive, and now there is no Ninja Omura to respond to them. Nara Shikaku nodded and said lightly. 5 generations of Kazekage are still too young. Gongyi smiled and said lightly, the rest of the ninja villages have not experienced anything like theirs, so naturally they cannot follow their advice and use their ninja powers to help the Sunagakure village. After all, in every ninja village now, they are eager to lose each other, so they can also take advantage of it. Knocking on the table, Gongyi seems to have seen through the situation in the entire ninja continent. So far, what happened now with Gaara has invisibly accelerated Akatsuki's plan. At the same time, 5 Shadows Conference. Looks like it will be held soon. After all, under this circumstance, it is impossible for a ninja village to truly escape this disaster. At present, the rest of the ninja villages are basically still master-tailed beasts, so it is absolutely impossible for them to escape Akatsuki's magic. After that, they will naturally understand Gaara's words, so they should agree to join forces to fight against Akatsuki. Chapter 550, Nara Shikaku's Short Knowledge 3rd More. Lord Hokage, I don't think it's a good time to agree to Sunagakure's request. Nara Shikaku heard Gongyi finish, he immediately said, after all, our Konoha village is developing now, and the rest of the shinobi village is silent. We also don't need to provoke Akatsuki here because of Sunagakure village. Their members are very strange and their whereabouts are very strange, which can easily affect our next progress. Now Nara Shikaku is also thinking a lot. As Hokage's advisor, he naturally has his own ideas. Now Akatsuki seems to be targeting the tailed beasts in various villages, but after all, it is only the Sunagakure village that has suffered. There was no such situation in the other Danin villages. As such, Nara Shikaku also doesn't want to stir up trouble in the absence of evidence that Akatsuki is targeting the tailed beast. Although they have just paid a lot of money here in Sunagakure village, it was only an agreement between Sunagakure village and Hokage before, and Nara Shikaku naturally couldn't appreciate it. No, Shikaku-sensei, you said the exact opposite. When Nara Shikaku finished speaking, Gongyi shook his head and looked at him with a smile. Not only do we have to agree to Sunagakure village's request, but now I'm going to send a team to search for news about Akatsuki, and now we in Konoha village. Plan your preparedness for future contingencies. Yes. When Nara Shikaku heard Gongyi finished speaking, he looked at him as if he had misheard. "Ans. I agree to the request of Sunagakure village. Lord Hokage, if we do this now, isn't it a bit risky?" Nara Shikaku looked at Gongyi and tried to dissuade. He didn't want to accept it. After all, the other 3 ninja villages were silent and did not respond to Sunagakure village. And here in Konoha village, if Sunagakure village's request to join forces is accepted, it will definitely attract Akatsuki's attention. And in doing so, it is more likely that the village of Konoha will fall into some dangerous situation. Sunagakure village has fallen into decline, but Konoha village is different, they have been growing very strong. If Akatsuki is pegged here, then it is very likely that the other ninja Omura will have a chance to take advantage. Thinking of this, Nara Shikaku continued with a bad expression. "Master Hokage, I suggest that it is better to wait for the response of the rest of the ninja Omura, and then we will make the next plan." "Shikaku-sensei, you think too much." Gongyi saw Nara Shikaku's appearance. He naturally understood what Nara Shikaku was thinking. Having said that, Gongyi stood up, turned slowly and walked towards the floor-to-ceiling windows at the back. Konoha Road in front of him now. This place is no longer what it used to be, and the whole of Konoha's hands has been reborn, and everything has been completely changed. Quietly watching the civilians who came and went, Gongyi smiled faintly and continued. "Now Akatsuki's intentions are very obvious. This is not something that can be avoided by everyone, we must now deal with it in advance. And this time, we're not helping Sunagakure village, we're helping ourselves more." Looking back, Gongyi looked at Nara Shikaku. "Our hatred with Akatsuki has already been forged. This time we rescued Gaara, and they killed an elite member. Do you think Akatsuki will let us go to Konoha village?" With a smile on his face, Gongyi continued. "Obviously, the Akatsuki won't let Konoha village go. In this way, I think that before they make a move, wouldn't it be more able to reduce losses if we strike first?" "It seems that Gongyi has already thought about everything," he said lightly again. "Although we promised to join forces with Sunagakure village this time, they are not the leaders, this time our Konoha village is the real leader. After this, the rest of the ninja Omura, once they are persecuted by Akatsuki, if they want to join our side, Konoha village can also get enough guidance." Gongyi said this. He paused for a while, then smiled and looked at Nara Shikaku and asked, "Master Shikaku, do you think all this is right?" Well, Nara Shikaku was once again speechless by what Gongyi said. Obviously, the two of them now see completely different eyes. Nara Shikaku is now like the rest of the ninja Omura. He regards the immediate interests as very important, and he wants to develop his own power in a stable manner. But Gongyi doesn't. Same, now his vision is very long-term, and even these possible things, he has completely thought about it. Undoubtedly, all of Gongyi's conjectures are not delusions. On the contrary, now what Gongyi said, Nara Shikaku, when he thinks about it, they may happen. Especially now with Gongyi's shot, when he rescued Gaara, he also destroyed Akatsuki invisibly's plan. And their members were killed by Gongyi, so for such an organization, it is naturally impossible to really let it go. Then if all of this is as Gongyi expected, the future will be a violent storm. Nara Shikaku, at this time, he finally understood why Gongyi said to take it in Konoha village. It may appear measures for emergencies. Akatsuki's side is too weird and complicated, and it seems that something like this has to be prepared. I have to say that now Nara Shikaku is not a tough guy, he can analyze Gongyi's words. Since they are waiting for Akatsuki and the others to retaliate later, it is better for them to take the initiative. The initiative. In this way, everything can also be avoided invisibly. Especially since there is still Sunagakur village, so their Konoha village is not an isolated existence. And after what Gongyi said, Nara Shikaku also understood. If Akatsuki's target is really the tail beast, then the other three ninja Omura will definitely not be able to escape. In this way, when their tailed beasts are caught, they will naturally seek cooperation on their side to fight against Akatsuki. Thinking of this, Nara Shikaku's frown slowly eased, and his pair of eyes could not help but light up. Lord Hokage, if according to what you have imagined, it seems that our alliance with Sunagakur village should be the best way. Hihi, Shikaku-sensei, you just need to understand. Seeing Nara Shikaku figure it out, Gongyi also smiled, showing a very meaningful look. He didn't know, Gongyi, he was a drunkard, not drinking. Now, as a prophet, Gongyi's thoughts don't stop at this. He was looking at, was actually more long-term than what Nara Shikaku thought. Chapter 551. Reorganization of Kakashi Squad. Now the reason why Gongyi decides to help Gaara's Sunagakur village, to investigate Akatsuki fully and resist them. This undoubtedly put pressure on Akatsuki and made them complete the collection of tailed beasts more quickly. Well, if the tailed beasts of the ninja Omura are captured, they will immediately wake up to everything Gaara said at the moment. At that time, the upcoming 5 Shadow Talks will also speed up the progress due to their own promotion. 5 Shadow Talks, this is why Gongyi will decide to help Gaara first. To take the initiative of the master in the 5 Shadow Talks. And the position of the general of the 5 villages must be won by himself. Only in this way, it will be much more convenient when you plan your own later. Well, although it's still a long time from the original line, Gongyi decided to take advantage of this opportunity to make arrangements in advance to prevent some accidents in the future. Senses, Gongyi suppressed his thoughts and looked at Nara Shikaku. Since Teacher Shikaku also thinks there is no problem, then you should immediately respond to Sunagakur village. At the same time, as a promise to join forces with Sunagakur village, I decided to send a ninja team composed of elite jonin to immediately go to the ninja world to investigate Akatsuki's whereabouts. Lord Hokage, you want to send members of that squad. This is up to you to arrange, but Kakashi gave up leading the ninja this time, and now he will be mobilized to be the captain of this team, and the rest will be arranged by you. Hearing Nara Shikaku asking here, Gongyi was already prepared and answered him directly. The Battle of Tiandi Bridge is about to begin. Although Kakashi wasn't injured, and Naruto didn't learn these things from Sasori. But Gongyi was still going to send them to Tiandichou to investigate the matter. Of this collaboration with Gaara, Gongyi decided to put Naruto by his side. That's right, it's Yamato who was brainwashed by himself. In the original work, Yamato replaced Kakashi in the Master Kakashi team, although the original work has been changed by himself. Gongyi still decided to let Yamato leave Anbu and take Naruto and the others. In this way, he can feel a lot more at ease, and he can arrange more. At the same time, Yamato can also be used to monitor the rest. After all, Kakashi is still from the Sarutobi Hiruzen faction, and if he has been subtly for a long time, he may also be biased towards Naruto. That I have this opportunity, Gongyi decided to send Kakashi out first. Anyway, it won't be long before the 4th Ninja World War begins. Everything will not be so important. Now let's pass this vacuum period when Akatsuki captured the tailed beast, then the next thing is the moment when I really act. Lord Hokage, the 2 advisors have something to do. See you. Just after Nara Shikaku left, an Anbu ninja suddenly flashed over and knelt down in front of him to report. I have something to do. When Gongyi heard this, he was a little surprised that these 2 old guys, who had been stable for a long time, couldn't help but want to interfere with this Anbu ninja, who was secretly monitoring them. Apparently, it would be hard work, something happened that finally made them unable to bear it any longer. Thinking of this, Gong Yi said slowly, "Go and invite them to the conference room, and I'll be there later." "Yes." The ANBU member nodded, immediately. "Get out of here. 2 consultants are coming together. It seems that something unusual came to me today." Didn't take long. Gong Yi wore the Hokage imperial robe and walked into a small conference room. A faint smile appeared on his handsome face, and he looked at Kaharu Yuditane and Homura Mitokado, who were sitting there waiting for him. "Actually, there is indeed something I want to discuss with you today." Homura Mitokado had just finished speaking, and the fast-talking Kaharu Yuditane immediately interrupted him. Now her face is serious, she is straight to the point, and she doesn't talk nonsense with Gong Yi anymore. "Tell me what's the matter?" Hokage had on his head on the table. Gong Yi sat down and replied lightly. "It's about Uzumaki Naruto." "About Naruto?" "Yes." The two nodded in unison. Homura Mitokado saw that the words had already been said at this time, and immediately said without hesitation, "Now that the wind in the ninja continent is tight, I don't think I can send Uzumaki Naruto out to carry out the mission now, especially for tasks related to Akatsuki. The reason for this, I think Lord Hokage, you should know better than us." Kaharu Yuditane looked at Gong Yi and said lightly, "Is it because you are worried about the power of Jinchuriki column?" When Gong Yi heard this, the smile on his face did not diminish. In fact, when the two of them came to find him, he could already roughly guess what the topic was. Now, as expected, they were not wrong. They seemed to be the same as the other old guys in Omura, who are going to imprison Jinchuriki column in the village and are strictly guarded. Now that such a big thing in the ninja world has happened, although the two advisors have no real power, the news is still very well informed. "So Hokage-sama, I think it is time to send the best ninja to protect Naruto." Homura Mitokado looked at Gong Yi and said what he thought, and with 4 people as a team, and at the same time strengthen the monitoring of him. Well, it's best to completely cancel his regular tasks and limit the scope of his activities. As soon as Homura Mitokado finished speaking, Kaharu Yuditane agreed. "Haha, are you two finished?" Sitting opposite the two, Gong Yi's face did not change, but shrugged and asked them. 2 consultants with a lot of things, these things they think about are almost the same template as everyone. Don't even think about it, the entire ninja continent, I am afraid, also belongs to such rigid ideas." Almost Gong Yi had already guessed the arrangement of their ideas. Not only them, Kumogakure village, Kurigakure village, etc. That group of old guys are probably the same. Especially from the previous Iwagakure village Onoki, it can be seen that his ideas are even more bizarre. Well, Lord Hokage is basically, that's all, what do you think? Hearing this, the two nodded and looked at Gong Yi. Obviously now they are all waiting for Gong Yi's reply. Well, the faces of the two of them are also very serious, and they think this matter is no trivial matter. As the two of them finished their words, Gong Yi recovered his senses, smiled and looked at the two of them. Chapter 552. The mascot of Konoha Village. "You two have a good idea." Kaharu Yuditane and Homura Mitokado. Gong Yi smiled and said slowly, "But I still have to say, no. Your old ideas are completely applicable to this era. So, now of course I can't agree." Gong Yi shook his head, showing a look of regret. "Lord Hokage, Uzumaki Naruto is not an ordinary ninja." Hearing Gong Yi's refusal, Kaharu Yuditane said with a bad look on his face, "He is a human Jinchuriki column force, and his body is still sealed with a tailed beast. Lord Hokage, in normal terms, people should not even be allowed to leave the village with normal strength. It's actually the most logical thing to do under defensive surveillance." Homura Mitokado also looked bad, looking at him and added, "Hee, the two of you are thinking too much." Seeing that they were still unrelenting, Gong Yi didn't show any impatience on his face. At this moment, with the sublimation of his strength, his mood gradually changed. This kind of thing is not enough to make him change. The current Gongyi is nothing but a light cloud. Now that Naruto is in the village or not in the village, there is no way to solve any problems that may occur. Your invisible restrictions are just superfluous and useless efforts. That's it. Although Sunagakure village has declined, I have to admit that the defense of their village is impregnable. Gongyi said with a bit of sarcasm on his face, but in the end, Akatsuki still entered their village, and in the end, he swaggered and took away the power of Jinchuriki column. In the end they can only pay the price and come to our Konoha village for help. With the smile on his face undiminished, Gongyi looked at the two and said, so even if Naruto stays in Konoha village, if Akatsuki wants to make a move, he will naturally attack him desperately. Of course, now I'm staying in Konoha village. Seeing that the two did not speak anymore, Gongyi said faintly again, Naruto, of course, he cannot be in any danger. Well, since the two of you have time to think about this, let's continue to think about the future development of Konoha village. Gongyi said, picked up the bamboo hat on the table, and stood up slowly. Walking to the door, Gongyi turned his head to the side, looked at the speechless two. He smiled disapprovingly. I will resolve the matter with Akatsuki. As of now, no one can threaten me. You two elders just put your heart on the construction of Konoha village, and you don't need to worry about the rest. Crunching, closing the door slowly, Gongyi walked straight out. Arrogant. It's arrogant. Although Gongyi's words are a bit domineering, the two have to say that they know clearly in their hearts. Gongyi definitely has this ability. If it wasn't for the existence of Gongyi, I'm afraid that when Jinchuriki column force from Sunagakure village was taken away, they would not be able to show their faces and ask for help from Konoha village. It turns out that Gongyi is indeed powerful. His action really brought my love back. At the same time, Akatsuki here, so far, really has no way to take him. Maybe as Gongyi said, only in Konoha village, maybe Akatsuki really dare not touch their people Jinchuriki column force. At least it can be said that now that Gongyi exists, their Jinchuriki column force is also safe. Thinking of this, the two looked at each other and could only sigh softly. Now with Gongyi Chang, for the sake of the fifth generation of Hokage, the power of the two of them has been vacated for a long time. Although the reputation is still here, it is actually just an empty shell. They belong to the Sarutobi Hiruzen faction, and Gongyi naturally couldn't keep them. If the previous 3 generations, they may choose to listen to their opinions. Now that Gongyi is here, it is impossible to listen. The wills of the two are completely different, and it is a good thing that Gongyi did not secretly get rid of the two of them. There is no other way, and now the two of them can only helplessly choose to obey. A day passed by in a blink of an eye. With the cold wind blowing, Gongyi has left Konoha village. He is activating the Hiraishin technique to go to the location of the country of grass. Now the matter of Kaharu Udatane and Homura Mitokado, he has long forgotten. For these two old guys, he didn't care at all. The reason why I keep them now is just as the mascot of Konoha village. At present, Gongyi is concerned about the affairs of the 5-tailed Jinchuriki column force. As early as this afternoon, he got the news from the avatar of the consciousness. So now he left the village of Konoha and made an appointment to meet in the land of grass with his avatar. Now that there has been movement from the 5 tails, it seems that I should be able to recover its chakra next. I have waited for a long time, and now the research of the small 10 tails Jinchuriki column force is finally no longer a guess. When the chakra that finally belongs to the 5 tails is obtained, the real research can be carried out. The 4th Ninja World War is about to start, and it seems that there is not much time left for myself. Fortunately, although Gongyi did not gather the chakra of the full-tailed beast, he did not give up his research either. Nature transformation of the tailed beast chakra, and he has already consulted various materials. Now basically, he only needs to wait until the tailed beast chakra is complete, then he can carry out the first step of the experiment. Master. How are things going? Came to the country of grass, Gongyi saw the divine avatar who had been waiting for a long time and asked. Now that Onoki has let go, the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force has begun to assign tasks here. Although it's not painful, and we don't have the task of going out of the land, but it's the best time for us to do it. There is no nonsense in the avatar of consciousness, and now he replied immediately. Hee, Onoki, this old man, I didn't expect him to compromise. Gongyi was really unexpected, completely unexpected. According to Onoki's character, he would not indulge a person like this. The reaction from the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force was a bit strong. I think Onoki did not dare to suppress him too much after the last incident with the four-tailed Jinchuriki column force. The avatar of divine consciousness has its own thoughts, he slowly analyzed. Yeah, the four-tailed Jinchuriki column seems to have helped us a lot. Gongyi raised the corners of his mouth and couldn't help showing a smile. Now that old Z was killed by himself, Onoki would naturally reflect on it. If he hadn't been so stubborn at that time, maybe the four tails wouldn't have been able to separate from him. After that, it is equally impossible for a series of such catastrophic events to happen. Chapter 553. Gong Yi's Ambition. Now Gong Yi, his analysis is also very thorough. Akatsuki is currently pressing step by step, plus the dissatisfaction of the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force, Onoki is probably really scared. He doesn't want to be killed when there is a person Jinchuriki column force who defected from Sunagakur village. This case, their Sunagakur village seems to be prosperous, but in fact there is no tail beast, and their status naturally plummets. No matter how bad the village of Sunagakur is, they still have at least one tail in their hands. Well, coupled with the constant instigation of the avatar of the divine consciousness behind the back, Onoki really dared not go too far in the house arrest of the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force. Now when will he leave the village of Iwagakure? Senses, Gongyi looked at the avatar of consciousness and asked. Tomorrow. Consciousness clone said slowly, tomorrow he will join hands with his Anbu to carry out a mission. With Anbu. That's right. Clone nodded and continued. Although Onoki has relaxed the restrictions on the power of the five-tailed Jinchuriki column, we have also been ordered to guard him for 24 hours. But now the Anbu members who are guarding him are all in charge of me. Divine Consciousness Clone said, a cold light appeared on his face. They won't be a problem at all, I will solve them on the way. Oh, not bad. Hearing this, Gongyi nodded in satisfaction. It was indeed a very correct choice to strengthen the ability of the Divine Sense Clone without being stingy. Because of his outstanding performance and the secret help of Gongyi, the position of the avatar in Iwagakure village is now quite high. Of the entire Anbu members obeyed his dispatch. Now on Onoki's side, since the task of guarding the five tails can be directly handed over to him, it is enough to see. He is still very valued. Then go back now and prepare for tomorrow's plans. Gongyi returned to his senses and instructed the avatar of the Taoist consciousness. Now recover the five-tailed chakra. If you want to avoid disturbing the village of Iwagakure, you can find a way to lead him to the territory of the country of grass. I will set up a lower barrier here. Having already figured out the plan, Gongyi looked at the avatar of the consciousness. As for the follow-up arrangement, I will use the identity of Akatsuki member to get close to the five tails. And you can help the five tails to fight me properly. Gongyi smiled, as if he had already prepared everything, and then continued, after getting some of the chakra of the tailed beast, I will not kill him. You can also use the rescue of him this time to win Onoki's trust even more. And I'll help you build momentum in secret. The capture of the five tails this time is also your chance. He said lightly, Gongyi's chess game is huge. Now his idea is not just to recover the five-tailed chakra for himself. The next plan has been a long time coming. Then it was with the help of this divine avatar that Onoki valued him even more from the incident where he pretended to save the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force. At the same time, Gong Yi used his own spy in Iwagakure to publicize all his current deeds and so on. Finally bribed the ninja and various high-level executives, quietly building momentum for him. This way, the already prestige avatar of divine consciousness will be pushed down to a peak. The fourth generation of Tsuchikage. That's right. Although the 5 tails have been recovered this time, Gong Yi did not want to take back the avatar of divine consciousness. He also has another thing, that is to help the avatar of the consciousness to become the 4th generation of Tsuchikage, and then control the village of Iwagakure. In this case, the village of Sunagakure has its own Gaara that can be controlled, and the village of Iwagakure has the avatar of the consciousness. The remaining Kurigakure villages are now completely holding their lifeline, so the insignificant Kumogakure village is left. Just looking at it this way, unconsciously, I have actually completely unified the ninja world continent. As for the rest of the small ninja villages, Gong Yi didn't care. They just waited until later, and they became the test objects of the 10 Tails Jinchuriki column power. That's right, after you have successfully merged with the tailed beast, then you will become a 10 Tails person with Jinchuriki column power, and naturally you must try your strength. And they are the next victims. As for the members who pretend to be Akatsuki, go to attack the 5-tailed Jinchuriki column force. It's actually very simple. It's also to throw this pot of dirty water on them, and it's also for the rest of the ninja village to see. Now that Iwagakure is also affected by Akatsuki, how can they be stable in Akatsuki? The same progress is expected to continue to accelerate. Now Gong Yi doesn't want to wait anymore, so he has been acting as a pusher behind the scenes. Soon, suppressing his thoughts, Gong Yi looked at the consciousness clone and asked lightly, "These plans, do you understand?" "Well, I understand the master." A long time, the avatar of consciousness nodded consciously, and then walked away. Night, a black night hangs in the sky. A pair of deep eyes looked forward. Gong Yi's face showed a sneering smile. "Everyone Akatsuki, since you have already taken the blame once, you probably won't mind if you take it again." The secret thoughts in his heart stopped, and Gong Yi also immediately activated the Hiraishin technique and left here. Everything is ready now. Gong Yi only needs to wait until tomorrow when the gods are cloned and the 5-tailed Jinchuriki column force will be brought here, and then everything will be over. That I have been preparing for nearly several years can finally be considered complete. Speechless all night. With an early morning light shining out, the night has begun to be broken and disintegrated. All the silent things have slowly recovered, and a new day has begun. Dawn, Gong Yi walked out of the palace. Now, he has let Mokuten, wood-style clone to go to the village to handle government affairs instead of him. Basically such a routine thing, Gong Yi is used to. Of course, today happens to be a small event in the entire Konoha village. And if you use Mokuten, wood-style clone to participate, you can also clear the suspicion of attacking the 5-tailed Jinchuriki column force. After all, using Akatsuki's identity, you can avoid the eyes of these ninja Omura. But Akatsuki themselves, they are not fools. Now if you let them know that you are behind your back to frame them so invisibly, they are likely to affect their future development. Especially that Nagato, he is very confident, at least for now he is not afraid of himself at all. It is very likely that he will choose to come directly to attack Konoha again. Unfortunately, the current Gong Yi is not afraid of them, but has no time to waste with them. This time the 5-tailed chakra is in hand, and he is also preparing to officially enter the research of 10 Tails Jinchuriki column force. Time, he naturally doesn't want anyone to disturb him. Chapter 554. The recycling plan is open. Second. Basically our mission this time is these things. Iwagakure village, in a house in the central administration building. Gong Yi's spiritual avatar stood here, quietly looking at the few people in front of him and saying, "Do you all understand now?" "Understood, Captain." When they heard the divine consciousness clone finish speaking, they immediately nodding back. There are 4 people in front of him, all wearing Sunagakur Anbu combat uniforms, with totems painted on their faces. Apparently they are all Anbu members of Sunagakur village, just like the avatars of the gods. Go! Divine Consciousness clone waved a big hand, and several people in front of him immediately all fled away. Outside the village of Iwagakure. Lord Han, it's been a long wait. The avatar of the consciousness flashed and came to the side of a tall man, and he said respectfully on his face. Although the pair of eyes that lowered his head were full of cold light, his attitude at the moment was completely undetectable. HMPH, you are too slow. The man called Han snorted coldly with a displeased expression on his face. Now he is the last person in the village of Iwagakure, Jinchuriki column. Although Han is still unable to perfect Master Wu Wei, his combat power is unquestionable. In the entire Iwagakure village, he also has a very high status. However, the current Han, he seems to be very unwilling to see the avatars and other Anbus. It is also because he is a human Jinchuriki column force, so now that the appearance of the avatar of consciousness and others, he clearly knows that this is the eyeliner placed by Onoki beside him. Especially now looking at the avatar of consciousness, Han is even more uncomfortable. As one of the best elites in Iwagakure Anbu, he actually came here to carry out the mission with him, but it was just a mere level mission, and he could easily solve it by himself. A whole small team of Anbu came. How could he be comfortable? I'm sorry, Mr. Han, I explained something here, so it was delayed. Suppressing the killing intent in his eyes, the consciousness clone raised his head and said politely. Now his character is in the village of Iwagakure, giving everyone a very gentle feeling. This is also the perfect inheritance of Gong Yi's character. Outsiders can't see what he really thinks in his heart. Okay, let's go. Even Han, he was depressed and unhappy, and could only accept it helplessly. In this situation, it is better than staying in Iwagakure village and being grounded all the time. Being able to leave here has already made Han feel that it is not easy. After all, their third generation, Tsuchikajinoki, is notoriously stubborn. Soon, as Han Shan left, the others followed. Today is the day when the 5-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan goes out to perform the mission. After communicating with Gong Yi, he has already started to prepare. As a part of Gong Yi, now Gong Yi's business is naturally his business. The two are one body, so they have to do their best to complete everything. At the same time, Gong Yi, who had left early in the palace, had already entered the territory of the country of grass. Because this is the junction of the land and the land of fire, Gong Yi often meets with the avatar of the gods here. In this way, Gong Yi has set up a lot of Hiraishin's spells in the whole territory. Now basically as long as he has a thought, it can appear anywhere efficiently. The border between the land and the land of grass. Now Gong Yi took a few breaths to stand here. After taking a few steps forward, you can already enter the land of the earth. Looking at the towering rock wall ahead, Gong Yi did not continue to move forward. This time to retrieve the 5-tailed chakra, he naturally did not want to disturb the people in Iwagakure village. So yesterday, I communicated with the avatar of the consciousness, and today I plan to bring it here, and then I plan to use the enchantment to solve all this silently. Taking the scroll from his waist out, Gong Yi immediately pulled it away and threw it into the air. Hand seal with both hands and pressed towards the falling scroll. With a bang, white smoke appeared, and several spells were pasted all around. All of them have black spells written on them, all obviously drawn by Gong Yi. That's right, this is Gong Yi's improved version of the enchantment spell. After all the placement is complete, you can open it by passing the second hand seal. This enchantment has no special effect, but it can block the sound inside. At the same time, it blocks outsiders from entering and insiders from going out. But it is this kind of enchantment, with Gong Yi's special enhancement, and its effect is very good. Although there is no strange effect, it is very suitable for Gong Yi to use. Boom. At this time, as the Gong Yi has just been set up here, there is a huge vibration in front of me. The towering rock walls that were blocking the front were all cracked at this moment, and the sturdy ones actually began to shake. In the sky above it, countless pieces of gravel were sputtered. Some fierce battle is taking place ahead. Hee, are you here? Looking at the movement in front of him, Gong Yi could clearly perceive the situation behind the huge rock wall. His tyrannical perception has long spread around, and the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force is also attracted by the avatar of divine consciousness at this moment. After thinking about it, Gong Yi's face Rong showed a quite satisfied smile, and made a seal with one hand. Mokudan, wood style, art of transfiguration. Wow! At this moment, countless branches gushed out from under Gong Yi's feet. As soon as they appeared, they began to wrap around, wrapping Gong Yi in it. When they collapsed in a few seconds, the Gong Yi inside was gone. Instead, there was a man in a black robe. He has black hair and an expressionless face, and the yuhi-colored auspicious cloud tattooed on his robe represents his identity. Akatsuki. Now Gong Yi has used the Mokudan, wood style, secret technique to completely change his appearance directly. The appearance from top to bottom is extremely realistic, and the breath is completely covered. Normally, ordinary people cannot see it. Of course, this special ninjutsu is also used for intelligence reconnaissance. From the beginning, after being able to use Mokudan, wood style, ninja completely, Gong Yi can be said to have tried many times and saved himself a lot of trouble. And this time, Gong Yi's main change is only the appearance of his body. This appearance is not any of Akatsuki's. As for the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force, he doesn't know Akatsuki as much as he does, so he doesn't need to go out of his way to imitate someone. At present, this appearance is enough, blindly superfluous, maybe only some bad situations will occur. Boom! Another loud noise came, and the towering rock wall in front of Gong Yi's eyes instantly shattered, and a black shadow instantly shattered. Flashed out. Chapter 555. Play of Imagination. Boom! Accompanied by the sound of a huge sound, a black figure dazzled. It can be seen that this black figure is also wearing a black robe, and the yuhi-colored auspicious cloud on it is very eye-catching. But when he appeared in front of Gong Yi, the bang turned into a white mist. Mystery Avatar. The current Gong Yi face. With a smile, the whole person did not show a little surprise. This clone, disguised as an Akatsuki member, was apparently created by a divine clone. Guess it's to attract the five-tailed Jinchuriki column power, so that's why. Gong Yi didn't pay attention to these specific details, because another person had arrived in the next second. Damn Akatsuki, go there. Boom! With a roar, the ground beneath Gong Yi's feet couldn't help shaking. I saw a tall man standing in front of him with an angry face. The jungle land that was supposed to be flat now has cracks. And under the man's feet, a small deep pit appeared. Although the man was furious at the moment, Gong Yi's face did not change in the slightest. Gong Yi couldn't recognize the man in front of him with an umbrella on his head, a brown mask on his mouth, and a tawny armor on his body. Han, the excellent Jonin of Iwagakure village, the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force, strengthened the taijutsu for fighting by manipulating the power of steam, and also strengthened his strength and speed, and was widely known as Steam Ninja by the ninja continent. He is exactly the target that he has been waiting for a long time. At this moment, it is not only the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan, but also his own divine avatar has also come here. But apart from that, there are only the two of them. As for the rest of the Anbu members of Sunagakure village, Gong Yi also knows that. I must have been cloned by the divine consciousness on the way and used some means to kill them all. Formation. Om. When Gong Yi smiled faintly, his hands merged, and in the entire surrounding area, those spells that had been arranged for a long time were immediately burns automatically. Immediately afterwards, an invisible imprisoned barrier, they shrouded the three people in it in an instant. HMPH, now I'm worried that I can't find you. Jinchuriki Column Lihan, the five-tailed man, snorted coldly with a gloomy expression. Now you guys actually, really dare to come to me. Gong Yi, who was completely disguised, and Jinchuriki Column Lihan, the five-tailed man, didn't notice anything wrong. He didn't even pay attention to the clone who had just led him here. After all, Gong Yi is standing here, and the five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan treats the two of them as a group. Gong Yi in front of him should be just a roadblock to delay him. Village of Iwagakure. Before, the five-tailed Jinchuriki Column had a deep understanding of Akatsuki's materials. After all, it was because of their troubles that Iwagakure village controlled itself. So these, dissatisfied resentment, the five-tailed man has completely turned his anger on Akatsuki. That is to say, the avatar of consciousness clearly understands this, and it may be possible to use the avatar of the secret technique to successfully attract it today. Your chakra is attractive. Gong Yi smiled coldly, looked at the five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan and sneered, so this is what we Akatsuki need most. Is it? The five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan heard Gong Yi finish, and he disappeared instantly. Then try it, do you have this ability? White steam suddenly shot out from his colored armor, and when he reappeared, it was already in front of Gong Yi's eyes. Han's speed is extremely fast. He used the thruster function of his special steam armor to greatly increase his speed. Go to hell, jet feet. The attack was almost seamless, and white steam suddenly spewed out from the feet of the five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan. Along with the impact of the steam, while enhancing his speed, it also increases his strength infinitely. A sharp cracking sound came out, and the five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan kicked and kicked. Bang! Five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan's attack was ferocious. Gong Yi turned slightly to the side and easily avoided his fatal blow. However, at this time, the avatar of the divine consciousness flashed over and immediately raised his fists. He blocked with both hands, only to hear a muffled sound. Gong Yi immediately blast off and leave. This was a premeditated attack, and it was naturally impossible for the divine consciousness clone to watch it indifferently. And Gong Yi, he didn't show great power either. Even his signature ninjutsu, he naturally couldn't use it here. Still useful to keep the five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan, and today is also preparing for the next chess game, and everything is just for the five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan to act. Kaden Fire Style Fire Dragon Bomb. Coming back to his senses, Gong Yi quickly hand-sealed with both hands. Hula. The flames condensed from chakra soared into the sky. As soon as the flames appeared, they turned into huge fire dragons in the air at a very fast speed, biting away at the five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan and Divine Consciousness clones. Doden Earth Style Wall Art. Seeing that Gong Yi has started to fight back, the face of the five-tailed man Jinchuriki Column Lihan is serious. Immediately, Dajin came to the front of the consciousness clone. Quickly hand-seal with both hands, and slammed down to the ground. A rumbling sound appeared, and one side a huge earth wall rose up in a blink of an eye, turning into a solid rock wall and standing in front of the two of them, perfectly isolating Gong Yi's Kaden Fire Style attack. Come. Boom. There is a loud noise outside the towering earth style wall. Gong Yi's Kaden Fire Style Dragon has completely hit it. In an instant, the solid earth wall, it actually began to appear dense cracks. However, although it can no longer defend against the second round of attacks, it is indeed a perfect offset to the Kaden Fire Style Dragon from Gong Yi just now. HMPH, Akatsuki is just that. The five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan saw the scene in front of him, and a sarcastic smile appeared on his face. With the simple fight between the two just now, the five-tailed Jinchuriki Column Lihan has begun to show contempt. After all, he didn't feel too much pressure. However, with the appearance of this scene, the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan didn't notice at all, and the face of the consciousness clone behind him was full of sarcasm. It's easy. It's all just an illusion. Just as the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan finished his words, Gongyi had already come behind him. Cadent fire style, majestic destroyer flame, great fire annihilation. The furious flames were spit out by Gongyi in his mouth, and they all devoured them like a tsunami towards the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan. The terrifying power of Cadent fire style, it seems to burn everything that resists it. Although Gongyi does not use his own ninjutsu, he is the Grand Master of all chakra attributes, and the master who rules all dharmas. Speaking of Gongyi, even these ordinary ninjutsu is enough to force the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan to a desperate situation. Fei Lu reminds you. Read the 3 things to collect, push the latest chapter Baidu search 99 playmates to find 99 novel network. Chapter 556. Squirt, Steam Ninja. Yes. Still, Jinchuriki column Lihan, the five-tailed man who despised Gongyi, immediately felt the scorching temperature behind him. His face changed drastically. Damn. The five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan widened his eyes and cursed, quickly biting the Kiba hand seal again. Doden Earth style, Earth wall art. At the moment of lightning, a large amount of dirt rushed out frantically and condensed into a small solid earth wall. It was almost a matter of seconds before it stopped in front of the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan. The flames formed into pieces are once again isolated by it. Boom. Although it seems to appear the same picture as before, the ending is completely different. This solid earth wall collapsed instantly and was mercilessly torn apart. Gongyi raised his fist and rushed out of the flames and rubble, and bombarded the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan. Gongyi's powerful strength, combined with this sudden blow, made the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan not react at all. PFF'd. A mouthful of blood spit out from the mouth of the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan. He couldn't avoid it. He took Gongyi's attack abruptly. Asshole. Jinchuriki column Lihan, a five-tailed man, looked at Gongyi who was indifferent in front of him, and he was a little daring to split. Feeling the beating of the internal organs in the body, the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan was beaten to death without thinking. I actually looked down on him. At the beginning, the simple Kaden fire style was just a disguise for his subsequent series of attacks. Well, now the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan naturally doesn't know, Gongyi still deliberately wants to save his life. Otherwise, with the punch just now, it would be enough to pierce the body of the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan, making him unable to exert the power of the tailed beast directly. Of course, all Gongyi is doing now is just to provoke the Jinchuriki column force and let him release the five tails. Whoosh! It's not over yet. Just as the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan's voice fell, Gongyi stepped forward and rushed out. The fists and feet attacked quickly, like a stormy attack that kept falling towards the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan. Gongyi's most exquisite physical skills, although he did not use all his strength, it is still not something that Jinchuriki column Lihan, the five-tailed man, can resist. Boom, boom. The sound of muffled sound continued to come out, although the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan could withstand Gongyi's physical attack. However, he has begun to gradually feel the pressure. Because he found that the physical attack of the Akatsuki member in front of him has become faster and faster. Although he insists on resisting now, he is gradually unable to master the attack path of Gongyi. Similarly, he is starting to be unable to defend effectively now. Steam crit. The five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan bites Kiba, and the characteristic armor he wears shoots out white steam again, and his whole person's strength and speed are instantly once again. It has been enhanced a lot. Abandoned the simple defense, and instead attacked. The fist of the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan slammed against Gongyi. Every time he punched, there would be steam behind his arm. Out, increasing his power. But no matter what, the current five-tailed Lihan, he can no longer gain the upper hand. Along with a series of physical attacks, the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan was caught by Gong Yi just by not paying attention. Disadvantages. With a bang, he was directly knocked out, and the whole person fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Hee hee, is this all your power? Gong Yi stood there with a mocking smile on his face. Then you'd better be honest. Go back to Akatsuki with me. The voice fell, and Gong Yi had already rushed towards him. However, it is not yet time to attack again. Doden, Earth-style, Yellow Marsh. Of a sudden, the whole piece of land Gong Yi was standing on suddenly began to soften, slowly turning into a swamp, pulling his whole body into it. It's not over. It seems that the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan, who seems to have taken out a desperate posture, has long since stopped keeping his chakras. Fuden, Vapor style, is unparalleled. The armor worn by the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan is full of steam at this moment, and the chakra is raised to the boiling point and burst out. He hit all the strength of his whole body at one point. That's the fisties smashing wildly now. Okeke Genkai like Terumi Mei. Gong Yi, whose movement was imprisoned, smiled faintly with his eyes forward. Fuden, Vapor style, this special Keke Genkai, is a combination of water and fire chakra properties. Now that he owns this Keke Genkai, Gong Yi knows it. After all, in the entire ninja world, in addition to Terumi Mei, the five-tailed Mu Wang also has this special ability. Now that Han has been a five-tailed Jinchuriki column force for so long, naturally he has also become a more or less master of it, which is not surprising at all. Looking at the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan who is about to arrive in front of him, Gong Yi doesn't. I have to say, this steam ninja, from Iwagakure village. Really strong. Under the extremely confident character, there must be a strong support. Can use the special armor to control the steam, and innate divine power, with the Keke Genkai from the tail beast. These 3 points alone are enough to make him have no fear in the ninja world continent. But today is a pity, although there are not many people who threaten him. But when he met himself, it could only be considered unlucky. Just when the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan fell with all his strength, Gong Yi had already activated the Hiraishin technique and left here. Rumbling sound shook the sky and spread throughout the entire area for dozens of miles. If it wasn't for the barrier on Gong Yi's side, then the ninja village on the other side of the country of grass would probably instantly discover the battle here. I saw that in the swamp where I was just now, a huge deep pit has appeared, which is dozens of meters. It can be clearly seen that now the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan, his whole fist hit the ground, panting, he turned his head to look at himself. How is it possible? How could he have such a speed? Jinchuriki column Lihan, the five-tailed man, couldn't believe it. Even though the two had only fought for a few seconds, he could still completely evade his own killing blow. Lord Han, please leave first. At this time, the avatar of divine consciousness flashed over and came before his eyes. Turning back, the avatar of the consciousness looked at him and continued, I will stop Akatsuki here, you are not his opponent, Lord Han, hurry back to Iwagakure village and seek the support of Lord Tsuchikage. What did you say? Jinchuriki column Lihan, the five-tailed man who was still shaking Gong Yi's speed, heard the avatar of his consciousness say these things. His whole face was gloomy. Not Akatsuki's opponent. Also seek Tsuchikage's help. Everyone's Jinchuriki column force naturally has his own dignity, especially such an excellent existence. Hearing these words of the divine consciousness clone, he felt that he was underestimated. At the same time, he thought of a series of things that Tsuchikage had limited him before. There is no doubt that everyone is despising themselves. Thinking of this, the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan, who was already angry, can no longer control himself. Of the five tails has begun to loosen. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download the latest chapter of Fei Lu Shaokan. NGT. Chapter 557. Under the situation of being forced to helpless at this moment, the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan has already wanted to release the five tails in his body. Although he still can't be the perfect master five tails, once it breaks the seal, he will be consciously occupied. And it is very likely that it will fall and be swallowed by the tailed beast. However, now the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan feels that he has no choice. Aside from the divine avatar who used his words to stimulate him here, the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan also clearly understands. Today it's hard for me to leave. Even the Anbu captain in front of me is helping me to stop the Akatsuki members in front of me. But it is very likely that it will still not have much effect. Damn, let me get out of here first. It seems that a decision has been made. The five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan bit Kiba and looked at the avatar of the consciousness. Now I will handle it very well here. You can go back to Iwagakure village and wait for me. Jinchuriki column Lihan, a five-tailed man, has a high reputation in the ninja continent, and he naturally does not want to be looked down upon. Master Han, don't you want it? Face of the consciousness clone put on a look of horror, and the whole person immediately looking back at him. Haha, are you finally willing to let it go? Gong Yi, who was standing in front, smiled coldly in his heart. Feeling a trace of the long-lost chakra power, he knew. The five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan finally couldn't bear it anymore. At this moment, it was a violent chakra aura in the Han body who answered the avatar of divine consciousness. As soon as it appeared, it instantly swept the audience, covering the entire interior of the enchantment. Come out, five tails. The five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan pair of bloodshot eyes stared at Gong Yi in front of him and shouted in a low voice, tear him to pieces. Roar. The power of madness almost blinks, then immediately breaking through Han's body. And his whole person completely crossed the first and second stages of tailed beastization, and directly formed a complete body. In just a short moment, a tailed beast with the head of a dolphin and the body of a horse with antlers appeared. Behind its pure white body, five huge tails swayed constantly. At this moment, a pair of eyes are looking at Gong Yi. Five-tailed King Mew. This guy with one of the best melee abilities among the tailed beasts has already shown himself. Although it gives a very mild feeling, its undisguised murderous intent completely exposes its character. As a tailed beast, it is not as long as it is easy to talk. It's actually human again. As soon as he appeared, King Mew of the five tails looked at Gong Yi with a cold gaze. Yufan said it immediately. Rampage. It's boring enough. The huge sharp horns on the top of the head make people feel numb when looking at the scalp. It was like a bullet at the moment, and in the blink of an eye, Gong Yi collided with it. The strength is good, and the melee ability is indeed very strong. Feeling this crazy power, Gong Yi smiled faintly and praised it. However, when Wu Weijia's crazy offensive approached, he shook his head, but unfortunately, the power of the tailed beast is only for ordinary ninjas. Hula. In the next second, a golden light was already blooming behind Gong Yi. Now that the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force has fallen asleep, he will naturally not keep the five-tailed King Mew in front of him. Of Jin Dun was vented at this moment. When the five-tailed King Mew collided, the golden light had transformed into huge hands, directly grabbing the two sharpest longhorns on top of its head. What? At this moment, the five-tailed King Emu's complexion suddenly changed. When he felt the power in Gong Yi's body, it obviously showed a hint of belief. This man the size of an ant was actually not afraid of himself at all. Contrary, his own attack was ruthlessly disintegrated. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, when Jin Dun transformed into a giant hand and grabbed its long horn, the huge tail behind Wu Wei immediately swept in, and now it is trying to distance itself from Gong Yi immediately. But the five tails are thinking very well now, but Gong Yi does not want to let it succeed. Just as it flicked its tail, Gong Yi also hand seal with both hands. The massive amount of chakra in the body suddenly vented, and even completely suppressed the chakra of the five tails immediately. Mokuden, wood style, 4-pillar prison technique. Stand ahead, immediately. He pressed his hand to the ground. Rumbling, the whole area around Gongyi trembled like an earthquake. I saw countless sturdy huge woods appearing crazily like the naked eye. They rose from the ground, and the wind grew to a height of several tens of feet. Waiting for King Emu's tail to draw, it was instantly trapped inside. The bird looked down and saw the newly grown wood Jinchuriki column. They seemed to form a wooden prison and completely trapped King Mu. Bang! When the 5-tailed King Mu was controlled by Mokuden, wood style, the 2 giant golden hands grabbing its long horns blocked Gongyi's eyes. When several tails swept across, they were all fanned to both sides by the huge sturdy palms. The 5-tailed King Mu was also in pain, and he did not expect that the golden palm would be so tyrannical. The two have just met for the first time, and now it has fallen behind. The art of Hiraishin is activated again. Gongyi has come to the towering wooden Jinchuriki column. His pair of cold eyes looked at the 5-tailed King Mu below, and at this moment he didn't want to entangle with. With a hum, the golden brilliance shone out again. Gongyi raised his hand and pointed to the position of the 5-tailed King Mu, spitting out from his mouth, Jin Dun. Kang. Extreme Edge Sword Slash. Om. In the blink of an eye, Gongyi's words followed suit, and the golden brilliance suddenly transformed into an invisible lightsaber. When it appeared, everything around it seemed to be extremely silent, leaving only a golden light. Even the sun hanging high above the sky, as if at this moment, could not compete with it. Around the barrier that Gongyi had just set up, they were shaking slightly, and it seemed that they could no longer bear it. Cut. Gongyi's thoughts moved, accompanied by Wu-tailed King Emu's horrified look, and the invisible golden lightsaber swung down. Almost in the blink of an eye, this seemed impossible. The blasphemous supreme strike immediately slashed at Wu-tailed King Mu. Although they were hundreds of meters apart, King Mu at the moment could only feel a terrifying beam of brilliance coming in the blink of an eye. With the roar of the 5-tailed King Mu in pain, the Jindun lightsaber ruthlessly cut off one of its long horns. Almost instantly, Gongyi has used the scroll and completed the recovery. The last missing 5-tailed chakra is now perfectly obtained. You're done. Philo reminds you. Read the 3 things to collect. Push the latest chapter. Baidu search 99 playmates to find 99 novel network. Chapter 558. Years of planning come to an end. Human, how dare you? The 5-tailed King Mu, who suffered from pain, is already furious. Unfortunately, Gongyi's Mokuden, wood style, has completely suppressed it here. Although it wanted to fight Gongyi desperately, it couldn't do it at all. Hee. Standing on the towering wooden Jinchuriki column, Gongyi looked at King Mu of the 5 tails with a cold smile. You should be lucky, I still need you now. Otherwise, it's not just that today. The murderous look in King Emu's eyes, Gongyi shook his head. For the follow-up plan, Gongyi naturally did not completely erase the 5 tails. After all, it still has a lot of use to keep, if you want to do it for a while. And cut the weeds and roots, then it will be very troublesome in the future. And the chess game here in Iwagakure village will collapse immediately. That's something Gongyi would allow. Human, you are so loud. Wu Taimu Wang looked at Gongyi's arrogant look, and it was already a little crazy. Ordinary human beings have always seen themselves with fear and awe. Now this young human, he actually dares to talk to himself like this. What happened to him today? King Mu of the 5 tails has lived in the ninja continent for so long, it's just unheard of. Shoo. Thinking of this, King Mu of Wuwei also did not give up. Behind him, 5 thick and huge tails swept towards Gongyi again. The huge body is trapped, but the flexible tail can still be manipulated freely. Okay, until the farce. Seeing Wu Taimu Wang's meaningless attack, Gongyi's face didn't show the slightest wave. A few muffled sounds. Its thick tail was completely grasped by Jin Dun's big hand beside Gongyi. Wait, the 5-tailed King Mu was in pain, and Gong Yi's face already had a smile on his face. Although he was laughing, it was very cold in the eyes of King Mu of Wuwei. It even made it wake up a lot in an instant. What do you want to do? Wu Tai Mu Wang saw Gong Yi hand seal, its complexion changed greatly in an instant. It seemed that he had forgotten the pain, and it seemed that he was no longer as furious as before. Because it is on Gong Yi's body, a terrifying sealing force has already been felt. End it. As Gong Yi's voice fell, the power of this seal was suddenly magnified countless times. A shocking energy that shook the four directions. Gong Yi, who didn't like too much nonsense, was completely silent, ready to seal it completely. Humans, don't. It seems that all the tailed beasts are very afraid of seals, and the five-tailed King Mu is no longer as strong as before. It is now able to come out with great difficulty, and then enter the body of the human Jinchuriki column force. Being sealed by such a dark and peaceful day, the tailed beasts are naturally disgusted. Over time, they are even more afraid of this seal. But Gong Yi went to take care of King Mu of Wuwei, but immediately he raised his hand and pressed it towards it. Wow! An irresistible super attraction, they seem to be transformed into invisible big hands immediately. Catch the five-tailed King Mu. No matter how it resisted, the entire huge body began to tremble and twist. This is the unstoppable power of the tailed beast. Almost instantly, it turned into a white shadow and was pulled directly downward. As for the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan, he closed his eyes and lay on the ground at this time. The entire huge five-tailed King Mu, immediately, was brought into his navel by this power. Not only that, but at this moment Gong Yi used his own sealing technique to completely change the previous seal. In order to prevent unexpected situations, Gong Yi cut off the communication between the human Jinchuriki column force and the tailed beast. Now they can't communicate anymore, and Han can't use the tailed beast until Akatsuki catches him. The necessary measures naturally need to be implemented. Soon, after everything was settled, Gong Yi hand sealed again. Kaden, fire style. He puffed out his mouth and spit out a large piece of fire, and all the traces of the battle around him were completely burned. All traces of everything no longer exist. Looking into the distance, the jungles of the country of grass are connected together, like a green ocean. Trees are lush and green, and the flowers and plants are gently swaying by the wind. Down through the layers of leaves. As soon as you go back, immediately. Let's plan the next step. Gong Yi stood here quietly at the moment. He looked at the avatar of consciousness in front of him and said, "Yes, Master." The divine consciousness clone nodded and responded immediately. It's almost time. Gong Yi looked at the five-tailed man Jinchuriki column Lihan lying between the two, and he smiled. I'll leave the aftermath to you. Don't worry, Master, there will be no problem. It seems that it has been prepared for a long time, and the consciousness clone nodded again. Well. After all the instructions were completed, Gong Yi also immediately activated the Hiraishin technique and left here. Now that everything is done properly, Gong Yi also wants to go back and can't wait to study the 10 Tails Jinchuriki column force plan. That I have waited for so long and spent years in total can finally be officially put into practice. 1 tail, 2 tails, 3 tails, 8 tails, QB 9 tails, chakra, finally collected. Then the next step is to verify whether my guess is correct. Konoha Village. Inside Hokage's office. Lord Hokage. Gong Yi, who just replaced Mokutan's wood-style clone, was sitting here when Nara Shikaku knocked on the door. What's wrong? Looking up at Nara Shikaku, Gong Yi asked lightly. According to your request, we have officially replied to Sunagakure Village. Nara Shikaku said, put the small stack of documents in his hand on the table, and continued, and the team responsible for exploring Akatsuki has also been organized. There are still 2 things that need to be notified to you, Lord Hokage. Tell me. Now from Sunagakure Village, after getting our response, news has come from their new 5th generation cage. Nara Shikaku looked at Gongyi and said slowly, now he has decided to come to our Konoha village in person to meet you. Oh. Hearing Nara Shikaku finish, Gongyi put down the document in his hand. Oh, this is really interesting. Mouth raised slowly, Gongyi smiled lightly. It seems that this cage has a lot of sincerity. Now Gongyi naturally knew that it seemed that the seed he had buried in his heart had begun to germinate slowly. I just need to guide me slowly. Gaara can basically live as a complete master here. After all, as a human Jinchuriki column force, what is missing in his heart, Gongyi knows all about it. Chapter 559. It is so. Now the relationship with us in Sunagakure village has improved a lot. Nara Shikaku also had a smile on his face, and said slowly and analyzed, at present, their 5th generation cage is coming in person, which is also a way of imprisoning the relationship between the two villages. And this time, Sunagakure village gave us the supplies of Konoha village, and it was the 5 generations of cage who were going to escort them in person. Haha, now that our Konoha village is the strongest village in the ninja continent, Sunagakure village is justifiable for doing so. Putting the documents together, Gongyi didn't seem to have too many surprises, and said lightly, after all, we risked helping them save this cage from Akatsuki's hands, and then also responded to the call of Sunagakure village. They will naturally choose let go of the past and try to restore our relationship. This is not bad, at least Sunagakure village is invisible here, and also chose to stand in line. Nara Shikaku's expression softened a lot, and he said with a sigh of relief, with the addition of Kurigakure village, there is basically no one to threaten in our Konoha village. At least, now the alliance of 4 villages that we were worried about at the beginning is basically impossible to appear. 4 villages. Hearing Nara Shikaku's words, Gongyi smiled, that's just empty talk, it can't be established at all. Native, in this world. Nara Shikaku, although he couldn't see the situation clearly. Gongyi, who has completely belonged to God's perspective and is still a prophet, understands everything very well. The other 4 ninja villages naturally have each other's thoughts. Although Konoha village is currently developing and prosperous, when it does not threaten one of their ninja villages, it is absolutely impossible for them to choose to take the initiative. The mutual defense against each other is basically very high. How could they choose to join forces? Konoha village is already very strong, and now they are not disturbed. Naturally they will not easily waste ninja resources to respond to the call of other villages. It's like what happened to Akatsuki this time. Gaara's accident here is enough to prove that Akatsuki is a tailed beast coveting Ninja Omura. Pity that the rest of the ninja villages are not willing to agree to Gaara's alliance at all. Naturally, they were all thinking of luck, and at the same time, they were also wary of the intentions of Sunagakure village. It is because of this that Gongyi is rarely worried about this matter. Of the 4 villages alliance simply does not exist. Even in the original book, the 5-village alliance fought against Akatsuki, but it was actually the result of being forced to help. If they don't form an alliance, they can only be defeated one by one. So this is that they are all guarding each other, and there is no sincere alliance. If it wasn't for Naruto's mouth to escape, it is estimated that it would be difficult for them to put down their guard and believe in each other. Ninja World Continent intrigues, it is very cruel. The thriving side in the original, in Gongyi's opinion, is only a minority. That is what high-level ninjas and powerful people can really possess. Weak ninjas, and those flat, cannot be seen. When Gongyi crossed over, he had already seen something deeply. Well, it looks like this is indeed. Nara Shikaku can't deny it, and the head agrees. 5 generations of cage are here, and I'll go see him when the time comes. Returning to his senses, Gongyi asked again, then what's your second thing, Shikaku-sensei? Oh yes, this second thing is about the Kakashi team. Kakashi squad. Well. Nara Shikaku pondered. now Kakashi has been arranged by you to investigate Akatsuki's team, and Sasuke and Kakashi's team has gone on a secret mission again, and now Naruto and Sakura are left in the team. After a pause, Nara Shikaku continued, "Look, Lord Hokage. Do you want to split the two into the rest of the ninja squad? It doesn't have to be." Gong Yi shook his head and replied, "Now I'll find someone to replace Kakashi to manage his squad, and I'll also be sending a ninja to fill Sasuke's vacancy." Understood. Hearing this, Nara Shikaku nodded. He didn't ask any more questions, and now that Gong Yi has arrangements, he also knows that he doesn't need to worry about anything more. Afternoon. After Nara Shikaku left, an Anbu member came to Gong Yi on one knee. "Is it coming soon?" Member of Anbu who arrives quietly, although he wears a mask so that no one can know his appearance. But seeing him appear, Gong Yi smiled faintly. "I knew that Hokage-sama had summoned me urgently, so I came right away." Up slowly, the Anbu member looked at Gong Yi and replied, "Now I have something for you." Putting down the pen in his hand, Gong Yi said in a deep voice, "Lord Hokage, what's the matter?" This Anbu ninja showed a look of listening intently. "I'm going to let you replace Kakashi and temporarily take over his ninja team." Gong Yi smiled and continued, "I think you should understand what I mean by now." The man in front of him is the Mokudan wood-style ninja Yamato who has been subdued and controlled by Gong Yi. "I totally understand, Hokage-sama. I'll keep an eye on them." Yamato nodded, and his face behind the mask revealed enlightenment. The loyal Yamato naturally knows something about Gong Yi. Now, Gong Yi doesn't need to make it clear, he already knows Akatsuki. The members of Kakashi's squad, as Yamato who had been monitoring them before, fully understood. A Kyubi 9 Tails Jinchuriki column force, the last orphan of the Uchiha clan. All are very important people. Although there is only one Uzumaki Naruto left, it is still very worthy of attention. Being able to be their team leader, Yamato fully understands what Gong Yi means. "Oh, not bad." Showing a satisfied look, Gong Yi continued, "This time it's not Anbu's task anymore, you can now officially enter the light and come and do things for me. From today, when you take off your mask, the title of Tianzang will no longer exist. You should just change your name to Yamato." "It's an honor, Lord Hokage." Yamato said and took off the animal mask on his face, and the whole person bowed his head slightly and said respectfully, "Well, the other vacant member of your team, I will arrange it later." Gong Yi knocked on the table, and immediately instructed, "This time, I will use this opportunity to push you to the bright side. You have to pay more attention and don't reveal your intentions too much." "Yes." Yamato nodded again and responded to Gong Yi. Chapter 560, Iwagakure Village. Iwagakure Village. Damn, is Akatsuki's hand still reaching out to our Iwagakure Village? In Tsuchikage's office, Onoki sat there with a gloomy expression and said solemnly, "Lord Tsuchikage, this time Akatsuki was clearly premeditated." He stood here and said lightly as he brought back the avatar of the consciousness of the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lihan. Just after breaking up with Gong Yi, he took Han directly out of the country of grass, and at the same time, he returned to the village with an embarrassed look. At this time, he also informed Onoki of everything he had fabricated before. At the same time, there was a slightly tired apology on the face of the avatar of the consciousness. This time, the subordinates' arrangements were all unfavorable, resulting in all the damage to the team, and even the Jinchuriki column force was almost taken away. "No, it's not your fault." Onoki shook his head, but a happy expression appeared on his face. "This time, it is thanks to you, otherwise Akatsuki would probably take advantage of the weakness of Jinchuriki column and immediately take him away. After all, the last time at Sunagakure village, they were Akatsuki. They used such a routine." The consciousness clone, Onoki's face softened a little. "Fortunately, you followed Han, and Akatsuki didn't succeed this time." The current Onoki, although he has served as Tsuchikage for a long time, and has a very high experience and ingenuity, he really has no doubts about the avatar of divine consciousness. The contrary, this time, through this incident, Onoki has a lot more trust in the avatar of consciousness. Although the elite of a squad has been damaged, at least the five-tailed Jinchuriki column Lehen has returned. For Onoki, this should be a fortune among misfortunes. Those elite ninjas are dead, they can continue to use resources to cultivate. If the last person in Iwagakure village, Jinchuriki column, loses his power and is captured, the loss is irreversible. Has brought back the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force, how could Onoki doubt the opposite? Now that the consciousness clone is in his eyes, it is even more appreciated. Right now, his voice is quite high, and at the same time his strength is one of the best in Iwagakure village. Now this time I have helped Iwagakure village again and saved a major loss. This makes Onoki appreciate the avatar even more. Thinking of this, Onoki also looked at the consciousness avatar and said, "Now you go to rest first, although there is a loss this time, but you can bring the force of the human Jinchuriki column. This is the best credit, I will later a good commendation for you." Lord Tsuchikage's words are serious, and it is natural to be ashamed to commend this subordinate. Avatar's face was gentle and elegant, and he said with worry on his face, "It's just that the subordinates are leaving now, and Lord Han is there. You don't have to take care of Han's place, and arrange another person to guard him." Onoki smiled and looked back at the avatar of consciousness. "Okay then, Tsuchikage-sama." The consciousness clone showed a look of relief, and continued, "Then the subordinate will retire first. Anyway, now that Gongyi has obtained the chakra of King Mu of the Five Tails, the divine consciousness clone just took this opportunity to get out. Now Han's side has no value at all, instead he has the rest of Gongyi's arrangements. In this way, now the avatar of consciousness is eager for Onoki to do this. At the same time, after Han's side left, he could clear the suspicion. If he blindly asked to guard Han, the ghost knows if Onoki, the suspicious guy, will suddenly think of something. Now this result is very good, at least the avatar of consciousness is very satisfied. After Akatsuki arrives here and captures Han, he won't have any influence at all. Anyway, now that he has been drawn away by Onoki, this is more in line with his plan with Gongyi. Well. Here, seeing Onoki nodding, divine consciousness clone immediately flashed away. "Father, how dare Akatsuki be so blatant now?" After the consciousness clone left, Lois, who was standing behind Onoki, said gloomily. "Looking at this now, Akatsuki is still afraid of us." Silent for half a second, Onoki said slowly, "At least they don't dare to come to Iwagakure village to make trouble. Instead, they choose to arrest Han when he leaves the village. Fortunately, Yamazaki has brought him back to the village while Han is weak." To now, Onoki did not doubt the avatar of divine consciousness, but continued, "Now we only lost 4 Anbu ninjas. Compared with the loss of Sunagakure village, it is almost negligible. Then now on Han's side, what are you going to do, father?" Lois walked up to Onoki and asked him in a deep voice. As Tsuchikage's son, Lois naturally has something to share with Onoki. Now, as Onoki gets older, he also intends to train Lois to take his place. "Now you will lead a team of 1 Anbu elite members and watch me around the clock." Referring to the five-tailed Jinchuriki column force, Onoki's face became serious. "Now that such a situation has occurred, then leave him completely to me in the village, and his movements will be completely restricted, no matter what." How is he? It is absolutely impossible to indulge him. If there is no Yamazaki this time, we will lose a lot. It seems that a decision has been made, and now Onoki solemnly instructs Lois. So no matter what happens to Han, he will never leave Iwagakure village. I don't believe that now that Akatsuki's first capture failed, is he able to make trouble for me, Iwagakure, for the second time. It seems that the illusion created by Gongyi this time made Onoki completely think that Akatsuki did not dare to come to their village at all. After waiting so long, Akatsuki only dared to go outside to catch Han, which undoubtedly proved Onoki's conjecture. Unfortunately, Onoki didn't know what he was thinking, but he was completely naive. Ninja Continent. This is a barren valley. I saw this mountain range, one of the caves is dark and humid here, and there is no sunlight all day long. The spacious core, where Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, stands. When it was summoned, black illusory shadows began to appear on its huge fingers. Aside from some notable features, their faces were indistinct, as if they were about to disappear at any moment. Soon, when several black shadows had completely solidified and appeared here, the members of Akatsuki, once again reunited.